Race wars. Oh boy. Who's excited for the race wars, guys? Who's ready? This is a great video.
Hostility between races is exploding online right now.
It is. Hell up that baby. Make that baby brainless or something for a while. That's what happens when you grow up with racist parents.
So you're unashamed racist.
Correct.
Everyone's tired, everyone's overwhelmed, and we're all exhausted from watching the world fall apart, and most of us don't know what to do with the tension anymore. Without any real solutions, the chaos hasn't just continued, it's gotten louder and uglier.
Is she just spamming it?
You hard ER today and get $1 million tomorrow. And it'll all get swept under the rug because they all still have their teeth.
We've come to realize that we're all about to wake up in a very different world soon. And this moment right now marks the tipping point. So what's really going on underneath all of this outrage? And more importantly, before it's too late, how can Christians step into the chaos without becoming part of the problem? To understand what's really happening, we have to look at the two events that everyone's reacting to and why they've become a tipping point for so many Americans. A few weeks ago, you probably heard the story about a kid named Austin Metcalf who was fatally stabbed at a track meet by another teen named Carmelo Anthony. And despite Austin's dad saying that this wasn't about race and begged for people not to turn this into a race war, that's exactly what
it probably wasn't. Realistically, their conflict was probably just Carmelo being an asshole. Because Carmelo got in other problems at school, too. I think Carmelo was just a retard asshole. Like, that was it. Like, it didn't have anything to do with race.
The internet did.
I just have one thing to say on behalf of the black community. We don't care. We don't care, okay? The same way you don't care about Trayvon Martin, yeah. And I'll say that with my whole heart. We don't care.
Anti-white race hatred is...
I think that's also a really good point, too, is that the way that Trayvon Martin was portrayed and George Zimmerman was portrayed, I think the media has done a very good job at creating the highest degree of, like, racial separation that we've ever had.
So profound that a black student can stab an unarmed white teenager.
But this was only the start. Things got much worse as soon as this happened. Carmelo's family set up a fundraiser, which quickly raised nearly $600,000, which left people online split and enraged. Those who defended him making the money claimed that the stabbing could have been a self-defense and that the money was raised so that Carmelo could have a fair trial, while those who are opposed to him raising money claimed that the money was raised as a way of celebrating a crime against a white kid and essentially condoning murder. So
the problem with that was, like, a lot of the comments were about Carmelo Anthony being targeted and arrested because he was black. I think that was really the issue that people had with it, is that there was a degree of almost like, just categorical hand-waving of Carmelo Anthony's behavior because he was black. And you could see that in the comments of the donations. And I think that's what really radicalized people about it. And then also the other big issue with it was that the guy that effectively attached himself to the Carmelo Anthony case had a rap sheet that would have gotten him 5 stars in Grand Theft Auto. This guy shouldn't even be out of jail. Like, he beat up a toddler. He had, like, a Grand Theft Auto charges, multiple theft charges. Like, this guy was a complete piece of shit, right? And, like, he was basically leading the charge in advocacy of Carmelo Anthony, right? And I think that's what really also radicalized people as well.
His tensions were already super high, but they got even worse after this happened. Just last week, a video went viral showing a white woman named Shiloh Kendricks at a park in Minnesota allegedly calling a 5-year-old black autistic child the N-word. And when asked why she said it, she defended her words.
Him the child? Did you call the child the word? It is my own business. You call him a Okay, why don't you
I never even watched this video.
Okay. All right, that's what you say. A little kid, you call him a the little child?
But that's not even where things went crazy. This was the start of the tipping point. Hendricks launched a crowdfunding campaign, doubling down on her statement, and claimed that she and her family were facing threats and needed help relocating. And the fundraiser skyrocketed, raising over $700,000 in just days, surpassing the amount that was raised for Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah, so this would have never happened if the Carmelo Anthony GoFundMe didn't happen. Like, this would have never even existed. It would have never happened. This was a direct response.
Porter said that the fundraiser isn't about what she said, but about pushing back on cancel culture, defending free speech, and in defiance of the white guilt narrative. While those who were opposed to her raising money are claiming that the reason why she got so much support is because she's racist, and that this is essentially about people wanting to condone racism. And ever since all of this—
Both sides are right. That's the truth. Both sides of this are right.
This went down, a digital race war has exploded on platforms like X, with so many people saying absolutely horrific things about the other race. And this isn't just one or two people saying things like this. Literally thousands of people have been openly calling for violence or hatred, or retweeting statements of violence and hatred towards the other race, as calls for segregation keep continuing to stack up more and more each day. But the more that this race battle continues to evolve,
I think the reason why this started to happen is actually because of BLM and the riots in 2020, and the fact that the government didn't immediately shut them down. And I think that because of that, it gave people the mindset that because it was like a BLM riot and it was a racially coded like thing, that it was okay for these people to behave this way. And it radicalized a lot of people. And it's kind of like, do you remember what I was saying earlier today about how like the big problem in, I think, Europe, and not all of Europe, but the countries that are having these issues like France and the UK, with like these Muslim migrant gangs, is not that they're happening, it's that the government turns a blind eye to it and they don't enforce the law in a unilateral way. And I think this is exactly the exact same problem that happened in the US with BLM, is that if the BLM riots had happened and immediately they were shut down by the National Guard or some other variation of that, I don't think that we would have seen this type of escalation that would have happened. But the problem is that you could see these riots happening and everybody could watch it happening, where they're burning down businesses that have nothing to do with this. They're, you know, like stealing from stores. And also, like, when I say they, I'm not talking about black people, because there are tons of white people that were participating in this as well, and Latino people and everybody, right? This wasn't a, you know, like, it wasn't even really a race war. It was just all of these people getting together and doing this, but they were doing it for this cause. And the cause was, of course, attached to a race, which was obviously black people, right? And so this happens, and then you have everybody freaking out and getting really mad about it because they see the obvious injustice of, you know, houses being destroyed, businesses being burned down, cars getting, you know, looted, stores being completely stolen, everything stolen out of the store, and nothing happened. And the people that were calling it out were almost being portrayed as racist. And I think that that radicalized people more than any KKK rally ever could. And I think it did so to a magnitude of like 10,000 times more. And I think that almost all of the race problems that we have, I think they date back to like two different points. I think that woman saying the Trayvon Martin case, I think that was one really big point. And I think the second point was BLM, is it was the selective reporting and the biased reporting of interracial violence between, you know, white and black people in the 2010s. And then the crescendo of that, the climax of that, was those riots in 2010. And now you're seeing a huge reactions to OJ verdict. The fact is, I'm 34. I don't remember that very well. So you could be right, but this is my frame of reference based off of like my lifespan. What about the injustice? Do black people still suffer to this day? Do people not see that part? Well, like, which injustice do you mean, right? So, like, are you talking about, like, for example, like, I don't know, like, I think that if you're talking about, like, any sort of, like, structural, like, injustice that a black person is dealing with, because, and here's the thing, right, and this is very important to keep in mind, is that I do think that there are elements of racism that are prevalent, and I do think that sometimes, you know, black people do get treated worse by police by the nature of the color of their skin. I think this happens. I think it does happen. But the problem is that there are so many bad actors that are on both sides that are trying to pretend like it always happens, and there's other people trying to pretend like it never happens. And so you have two sides of people that are intentionally dishonest, that are misrepresenting a legitimate problem, and it makes everybody worse. It makes everything worse. And so that's really it. Only inherited wealth. You know, well, I mean, like, the thing is that I think that black people are at a number of, like, kind of cultural disadvantages. I think that generational wealth is probably the best example that I can use of it. That's the most material that I can make an argument for. But it's very hard to have honest conversations about these things because the conversations are dominated by dishonest people. And I find it to be very disappointing. Where's my generational wealth? I mean, most people don't have generational wealth. But on average, don't you think slavery and segregation would have made it a lot harder for black families to have generational wealth? Like, can't both things be true? Why can't you just acknowledge this obvious reality? Like, I mean, of course. Like, what are we talking about? Like, why? 100 years ago? Yeah, exactly. We don't care. It's not about whether you care or not. It's about whether it happened or not and whether it's real. Acknowledging that something is real is always a good thing than denying the truth. Take the L, bro. That's not the point. It's not an L. This is a fact. It's just an objective fact. And I can give other examples of this too. Like, I can give examples about how people who aren't in English-speaking countries that come here and they didn't have access to education, this is just the truth. And I'm not saying that, like, I'm not, like, the problem, why people get so defensive about this is because, you know, like, I say something like this, and they're like, oh, okay, so you just want reparations. No, I never even said that. Nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying this. Nobody's trying to push for that at all. I think that it's important to accurately understand where things are and to understand how we got here. That's it. And if you can't do that, you can, and also you can never solve problems if you don't know how they happened.
Become more and more apparent that these events are more than just controversies. They become symbols of something much deeper and much more dangerous to our future. These events are about what they triggered in all of us. I mean, just take a listen to what both sides of the debate are saying now.
So the way to fight back against essentially this anti-white hatred that's been systemically, you know, ingrained in U.S. society is with white unity.
And underneath what's being said, what we're really seeing is that both sides feel like their experiences are being dismissed. Both feel under attack. And what we're left with now is race baiting from both directions. Identity politics on both sides.
Yeah, this is what I was saying before. Do you remember how I said years ago that, like, if people keep playing identity politics, white people will start playing identity politics again? Well, here it is. Now it's happening.
Contest over who's the greater victim, as everyone claims systemic oppression against their group. And by the way, I'm sure both sides would be more than eager to explain why their claims are legit and the other side's isn't, but to say that would be to miss my point. Because my point is this. What I've come to realize is that it's easier to recognize genuine problems or even misdiagnosed problems when we're on the receiving end of it. Of course, there's exceptions, but our personal experiences and history shape how we view the world and what we notice. And if we're not the target, we easily miss those subtle things that others might see every day. This is why most non-Christians don't see prejudice against Christians, even though a lot of us believe that we see it. It's why
I think that there is prejudice against Christians, and I think that it's obvious that in media, it's much more socially acceptable to make fun of Christianity and to demonize and delegitimize and degrade Christianity in comparison to other religions. It's obvious. If you can't see that, you're just being dishonest.
There's people on the left like Ethan Klein and David Pakman were quick to call out what they perceived as anti-Semitism, while the rest of their non-Jewish group dismissed it as non-existent. It's why women on the right have called out what they see as misogyny coming from those like Andrew Tate. Now, the point is not whether or not these people are right, but how people within certain groups may be sensitive to what they perceive as attacks coming from the outside while dismissing it when others claim the same thing.
Exactly.
It's happening all across the board, and it's feeling a dangerous pattern where everybody's experiences feel invalidated, which makes everything worse.
Yep.
The end result of both sides feeling ignored is that we're locked in a cycle of retaliation.
Sorry, but just to be clear, you just said to me you use the N-word regularly. In what context? Do you use it with black people?
Yes, if it's appropriate.
When would it be appropriate?
Anytime I feel like it.
So you're an unashamed racist?
Correct.
Every reaction becomes fuel for the next.
I think that the focus around using the N-word is like a really big misdirection. And it's like a word, like obviously, like, I mean, it's not a polite thing to do to call somebody the N-word, right? Obviously it's bad to do that. But at the same time, the real issues are not the N-word. The real issues are making sure that people can afford food, they have access to education. Like, these are the real problems, and that they're being treated fairly by the justice system. Like, these are the real issues. Like, the N-word is not... This is like a bullshit retard issue. It's like, yeah, it's like the Hail Hitler song. Like, this is a retard issue. Access to jobs? Yeah, like, well, like, for example, right? And so let's look at, like, and I'll give you an example, right? And so there's, like, a much poorer area, and let's say it's dominated primarily by minorities, maybe not just black people, but just in general minorities. Well, these poorer areas generally have less stores in them because these stores get broken into a lot. And so a lot of upper middle class liberal white people like to get together and talk about how much all cops are bastards and how they want to defund the police. And they do defund the police, and it succeeds. And so the communities that are actually in the most dire need of the police now don't have the police. And because the police are defunded, so are the businesses, because the businesses can't make their money back because they're getting their stuff destroyed and stolen. So then you have the good businesses that are moving out of these areas that are underprivileged. And because of that, you have people that are in these areas that are looking for local jobs that now don't have access to them because of the second order effect of defunding the police. And this is the way that these things happen. Usually there are not, and this is the problem with discussing a lot of these issues. Food deserts are like, that's one example, but there's many examples of this. Womp womp, stop stealing. I agree with you. I totally agree with you. But do you know how you stop people from stealing? Is that you bring in more police, you arrest the people that are stealing, and then everybody else is happy. Look at El Salvador. Like, no matter how bad you think anywhere in America is, it's nothing compared to El Salvador. And he just took care of it. Arrest the criminals, and the problems go away. Wow, what a surprise. So, yes, it's bullshit. And it's not the people in El Salvador's fault. You can't blame the communities there. You can't blame them. These are gangs. These are people with guns. Like, they're going to attack your family. They're going to destroy your house. You need to hold the government accountable for not getting rid of these people. And so, and do you guys see how, these, again, virtue signaling activist causes like defunding the police actually hurt these minority groups and create economic disadvantages down the line through a chain of events. That's why it's happening. And these problems do exist, and they are real. But you can't talk about them because most people that are discussing these topics can't understand anything other than a direct cause and effect. A minute ago, you meant the police is acting in bad faith towards black people. Now you say these communities need more cops? Yeah, you're right. And so the way you would solve that is you spend more time making sure the police are interacting with the communities. And also, I didn't say that it was I didn't say that it was or wasn't happening. I said that there is a degree of it's happening, that it's a gotcha. No, this is okay. That's fine. There is a degree of it that does happen, but the problem is that addressing it is impossible because you have two groups of people on both sides that are unwilling to cede any ground. And so whenever I'm talking about more police, you will have bad police officers. This is a guarantee. So the problem with bad police officers isn't the fact that they exist. It's the fact that they are allowed to continue to exist. So you would have to reform the police system, increase higher levels of accountability, make sure that these police unions don't effectively control the law. And that's what you do. So like no accountability? Well, you need accountability for the police. Because, and you see how all of these things fit together. You don't solve this problem by just giving black people more money. You don't solve this problem by just putting more police officers in a ghetto area. You have to solve it with like 7 different things. People don't listen. Yeah, there's no silver bullet, but there's like 5 silver bullets or 10. Your assumption is wrong. Most police departments were not defunded. What happened is that many policing departments stopped policing in protest. Hiring more cops doesn't fix that. Okay, well then figure out why they're protesting and what they want, and then fix that problem. Like the solution, oh, the police don't want to police. Oh, okay, well let's just give up on the law. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
And now it's no longer about right or wrong anymore. It's about defending your group because it feels like our dignity and self-worth is on the line. So we react, we generalize, we moralize, we snap back, not because it's wise, but because it feels like survival. And when that sense of threat runs deep enough, people will justify almost anything to protect themselves. This is why we're now seeing people go so far as to openly defend violence and racism. And the real problem in all of this chaos is
of course they're doing that. Obviously they're doing that.
This. Most of us feel like we're stuck between two bad options. Stay silent and get streamlined by attacks on our race, or strike back and slowly become what we hate. Part of why we feel so stuck is because we're constantly being pulled by outrage and often only seeing one side of the story.
That's mainstream media. That's what mainstream media does. Very few people will give the commentary that I'm giving right now. I think you have your heart in the right place, but I think it's also naive to say that there's no systematic problem in the U.S. institutions. Well, I'm going to ask you, like, a question. Can you give me an example of a systematic problem? Give me an example of a systematic problem. Everyone talks about how the media foments this racial divide. They do, but they only discuss it from one direction. They discuss how the media only makes black people look good, or how the media only makes white people look good, or vice versa. And so that's the issue. It's completely one-dimensional. It's that they provide half of what they should be saying without providing the other half. So, like, give me an example of something. Voter suppression, for example. What do you mean? Wait, what? How do you mean voter suppression? What do you mean by that, voter suppression? You're not going to make the argument that black people don't know how to get an ID, are you? Please don't make that argument. Oh, now he's quiet. Uh-oh. I mean, is this going to... I mean, like, we got to move on, man. Let's get this going, right? I mean, you're gonna argue in chat, that's fine, but like, you've got to have an example of like what you mean by this, right? I'll give it like one or two more, like 20 more seconds or so, and then I want to move on. And yeah, the better argument is black people spend more time in jail. No, is that what do you call it? Is the black people spend more time in jail for committing the same crimes as white counterparts? Yeah, but that's I think that's a socioeconomic problem. Black households have a median income of $56,000 and white households have a median income of $89,000. Like, this is a huge amount, and that's median, right? So like, you're not counting like the super extremes. That's not the point. There are studies that suggest black people in poorer neighborhoods are 80% doing drive-through voting. I don't understand, like, this is, I don't even get, like, that's, I don't even know what that means. Okay, let's just move on.
We have Ground News as the sponsor of today's video. Ground News gathers articles from over 50,000 sources and shows you how they're being covered across the political spectrum, letting you see the full
it's not
picture.
even a point.
For example,
like,
when it comes to the fundraiser for Carmelo Anthony, over 94 sources have covered it
by
already.
the way, so they have an ID because they're driving? Yeah, because you need a driver's license to drive? Uh-huh.
And out of those, 37% of them are right-leaning and only 15% are left-leaning. And just take a look at how the bias is coming out and how they're reporting it. The right frames it as his parents being rewarded with $445,000 for his violence, while the left frames it as Carmelo raising the money to go into hiding after receiving so many death threats. The bias couldn't be more clear.
It's obvious.
And I also love the blind spot feed, which highlights how stories are disproportionately covered by one side of the political spectrum. For example, out of 34 sources, 0%, that's right, 0% of left-leaning sources have covered the fact that Planned Parenthood's annual report shows a rise in public funding and abortions, which is a massive...
Or it's 0% on both sides if it's about that group in Pakistan that split off.
Blind spot. So Ground News has become a valuable tool for me, especially as a Christian seeking truth and integrity in media. And if you want to try Ground News today, go to groundnews.com/whatdoyoumeme to get 40% off of unlimited access to the Vantage plan. So thank you, Ground News, for sponsoring this video. And now back to white outrage feels like it's the only option left and what it's quietly doing to us. So people are striking back at racism with more racism, more threats of violence, and more moral compromise, letting their character erode in the name of defending themselves in this race war. But if this is war, then what exactly does victory look like? Is it raising more money for your side, destroying the other person's reputation, or getting them fired? And will any of that actually force the other side to back down? Political voices have trained us to get louder, and we're rewarded for doing so with callousness or cruelty. They tell us that this is the only option left, that we tried to turn the other cheek, but it doesn't work because the other side is just too evil and wants us eliminated so that way they could destroy the country.
You hear this all the time.
But here's the catch. The more that we take their advice, the worse things get. The more that we scream, the less anyone listens. The more we retaliate, the more emboldened our enemies become. The more immoral that we act and justify it as a necessary evil, the more morally confused everyone gets. Just take a look around. Outrage isn't fixing anything. It's just creating new villains. And besides, yelling at people and shaming them won't change their mind anyway. In psychology, it's called psychological reactance, shows how aggressive tactics like shaming or yelling usually make people less likely to change their mind.
Wow, what a surprise. Screaming and yelling and bullying people doesn't get them to agree with you. I would have never guessed that. What a shock.
Not more. So as the cycle of reactiveness continues to grow, nobody feels more seen. Nobody feels more heard. No one feels more healed, and no one's desiring more peace because the problem isn't just a reaction. It's what we used to feel righteous, what we cling to when we feel unseen. It's about something that I call value makers. You see, we've all been distracted by these surface debates. But if you've ever thought, why does everything feel so personal now? Well, this is why. We as humans are painfully insecure. We're constantly searching for ways to feel more valuable, whether it's through success, intelligence, fitness.
That's why identity politics is so popular. It's because it's personal.
Relationships, beliefs, or even morality. The things that we subconsciously depend on to justify our sense of self-worth are what we can call value makers. We all have them, and they're usually good things, but they become dangerous when we treat them as foundational to who we are. We're constantly going to these value makers to tell us why we matter, and the easiest way to feel more valuable without even having to do anything is to look down on others who don't have what you believe makes you valuable.
Money or whatever.
If you're in shape, you'll feel better about yourself if you choose to look down on those who aren't in shape.
Stop eating! That's why you're fat!
In politics, we tell ourselves things like, I'm valuable because I'm on the right team, because I have the truth, because I'm more moral
the
than
right
they
side
are.
of history.
But when our identity is built on these things, we start seeing others as less because it helps us feel like we're more. And this habit, it becomes like a drug. We need more and more of it to keep our self-esteem intact. And today, one of the most powerful and fastest growing value makers is our racial or political tribe. It works because it promises instant meaning, instant moral clarity, and a ready-made enemy to look down on. So
it's an easy way to immediately define a problem without having to think about it. And people appreciate that. They like that a lot. No, you like to call it a tribe? No, that's what it is. Yeah, he's totally, he's completely right.
Once you understand that, you start to see how racism and so much of the online outrage today isn't just about hate. It's about people desperately trying to feel valuable through their tribe. The only problem is, when your race or your group becomes your ultimate value maker, every insult to that group feels like a threat to the very foundation of who you are. That's why people go to extremes. Why they defend the indefensible.
It's the logic of, if it can happen to them, it can happen to you.
Because it feels like they're defending their very identity. But like virtually every other value maker, seeking comfort in your tribal identity won't make you more secure in who you are, but only more insecure. You'll crumble when your side loses, when your group gets mocked, when you don't feel affirmed. And when your identity is built on something that fragile, you'll always be on edge, always defensive.
I think that if you build your identity on something that you didn't earn, you're always going to have problems, and you will have issues just down the line with like 50 different things. And so what you're really seeing in these cases is that people that are defining themselves on things that they can't control and they don't have any ownership of, the only people that do that are losers. Losers and retards that don't have anything else going for them. So they take pride in things that they had no control over.
Always reactive. And today, everyone has a little bit of snowflake in them.
And then look at them. Snowflakes.
So I hope you can see by now, this isn't about politics or outrage. Fundamentally, it's about misplaced identity. And now that we see the real battlefield, maybe we
I think a lot of this misplaced identity, like this guy's talking about it from a Christian angle, and I think he's going to go there, but if he doesn't, I will. I think that people have replaced religion with identity politics and political dogma. And in place of religion, you see people embracing these types of extremist ideals, and they like adhere to them in the same way that people adhere to religion.
Finally stop fighting the wrong war and actually fix the problem. The problem isn't that we have value makers, it's that they become so foundational to our identity when they were never intended to be. They can't fully affirm your self-worth because they were never designed to. And as Christians, out of everyone, we should know this because of the gospel. You know that you truly internalize the gospel when you can know in your heart that Jesus didn't just die for you, he died for the very people who hate you, the people that you can't stand, the absolute worst racists in the world. You know that you've internalized the gospel if you know that, while also knowing that you're no more deserving of salvation than they are. And if that feels unjust when you look at them, it's because it is. It is unfair for him to offer them salvation. But it's also true when they look at you and believe that it's unfair for him to offer you salvation as well.
It's like the prodigal son.
You and your worst enemy are valuable because you were loved enough for the God of the universe to die for you. And not because you earned it, not because you deserve it, but only because he offered both of you his grace. And this is why the gospel takes away the illusion of self-superiority. If you truly believe in the message of salvation, then how could you possibly look down on the other team or feel superior to them because you found Jesus and you're saved? The truth is, you can't. And that's the kind of value maker that changes everything. It frees you from needing to win the argument just to feel okay. It frees you from the cycle of outrage because your value isn't up for debate anymore.
I think this is a, like, religion is like one component, and like if religion works for him, I think that's really good, and that's great for him, right? I know a lot of people that religion is an ordering force in their life and it improves their life. But I think it's like just a general kind of trend towards like cultural nihilism, and a degree where people just simply don't have any form of identity other than what they make up for themselves. And people have been divorced from like the tradition of their culture. They've been divorced from the religion of their culture, and they're kind of treated as this interchangeable business unit of like of a commodity. And I think that that's just not what people are. Well, I'm saying religion would be a great guide. Yeah, killing people for using the wrong calendar. Well, there's obviously, I mean, like the thing is that, I mean, you can look at any value system, like you're going to have people that take it to an extreme and are crazy.
You don't have to
special.
defend your race like your worth depends on it. You don't have to drag the other side down just to lift yourself up. Your identity is no longer built on the tribe, it's built on the cross. So yes, fight for justice, but don't fight like the world. Don't cling to your tribe like it's your salvation. It's not. This whole world and all of these worldly titles causing division are fading away. Jesus didn't die to save your race, he died to save your soul.
I mean, this is religion, but I think the real problem is the government. The government not adhering to the law and not enforcing the law accurately and treating people fairly is what causes these race wars. That's what really causes it to happen. Because, I mean, the fact is, like, religion helps, but, I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of people in like, the Middle East, for example, are religious, and they've been fighting each other forever. So, like, it's not like religion solves the problem of, like, war, right? Because in a lot of cases, there's the spiritual and then there's the material. Where, like, a lot of these, like, wars that are fought on spiritual grounds are also about land.
Speak the truth.
You see what I'm saying?
Do it from a place of peace, not panic. From grace, not ego. From a secure identity, not a fragile one. Because in Christ, you were fully known and fully loved. You were worth dying for, and not because you had the right views or anything good that you've done, but because of who he is. And when that's your foundation, you can finally stop fighting for your value because it was already secured at the cross. Hey, thanks so much.
That's what I've always felt like with me, right? That's why I don't really, like, I don't spend a lot of time, like, people, like, insult me or, like, they'll get mad at me or, like, be hostile to me. Is that, like, I don't really think that it matters what those people say because, like, my own personal value is what really matters the most. And so, like, if I'm happy with what I'm doing and I'm satisfied with what I'm doing, then other people's perspective on it doesn't really make a difference. You can't compare Muslims with Christians. Of course, there's a war in the Middle East. Well, I mean, Christians have found ways to kill each other too, right? I mean, like Muslims don't have a monopoly on being crazy. You know, Christians, we've done that ourselves too. Like, I mean, I don't like, and that's the problem, right? I mean, just it's again, it's the dishonesty. That's the big issue.
For making it to the end of the video, it really does mean a lot, and it helps us in the algorithm. Now, if this video shook you, even just a little, it's because we're not just dealing with headlines. We're dealing with spiritual deception dressed as tribal loyalty. We make videos like this because we believe that Christians need clarity in a culture that's full of confusion and the courage to follow Christ without compromise. But creating this content takes hours of research, writing, editing, and planning, and right now, I'm doing most of it myself. And to keep up with what's happening in the world, and to go deeper without compromising truth or quality, I'm working to hire my first full-time member to help carry the load.
Good for
so
him.
if you've ever watched one of these videos and thought,
yeah,
man,
good for
more
him.
people need to hear this, supporting on Patreon is one of the most impactful ways that you can help make that happen. And if that's something that you want to help build, not just support, then I want to invite you to join me on Patreon. The link is down below in the description, and it really does help more than you probably realize. All right, so thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.
I think one thing, if he ever sees this, is one really insightful and helpful thing for me is to have a Discord community. And that way I can have like a group of people that will like send things to me and give me insights that I wouldn't have naturally seen. And I think that definitely, like, if you have one person, that's good. But like, for example, like we have so many people, like, you know, we have like, for example, a mod that was in Serbia. And so like when they had those Serbian protests, like we got to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, right? Like effectively, there's the, Free Jam. Yeah, that was Free Jam, right? And so there's the video, give it a like. And I feel like, yeah, I mean, that's one thing that helped me out a lot. And, you know, this channel, it's got, you know, 500,000 subs, and this video is doing pretty well. Give it a like, give them a sub. I think this is good. And overall, I feel like there's a lot of ways, like, I mean, the thing is, like, religion isn't going to be like the solution for everybody, I don't think. And I think that a lot of people, especially like kind of like people that have like my inclination, religion is like kind of it's a pretty tough pill to swallow. But I think that you can come to these same conclusions with like non-religious means, but it's harder to do. And I think that unless you really believe in it, the foundation for it is a lot more shaky. So yeah. It's a helper in a situation. Yeah, I think so. And I'll go back and I'll look at this. I'll read some of these comments here, and then we'll talk about it. Because yeah, I mean, I have a lot of opinions about this. Of course I do, right? No one chooses what their parents are, what name they're born, their color, their skin, but they do choose how they act in life and the principles they stand by. Yeah, and that's why it's important to make sure that you focus on that, and that's what really matters about you, not anything else. But bro, how hard is it to live by causing no harm to others? It's actually very hard to do because there are oftentimes scarce resources. The root of all evil is not money, it's scarcity. Every single bad thing in the world is tied to scarcity. And so if you had a post-scarcity world, like theoretically, you would nearly eradicate all types of bad behavior. Well, like greed, well, no, but you don't understand. Like greed and envy are downstream from scarcity. You're greedy because you want a lot of things, because the amount of things that you have is contextualized. Scarcity is what contextualizes it. Envy is also the same thing. Scarcity is the root of all evil. Thanks for watching this video. A lot of dangerous rhetoric online, increasing for everyone. I think this was needed. MLK say every man is equal, and people tend to forget that as a black person. Thank you. Well, the thing is that, like, I think that's the way that most normal guys think. And I unironically think this is probably, maybe this is crazy, but I probably have, like, if you had an Asmongold, like, you know, fucking community meetup, and like everybody submitted their photos, we would probably have a more diverse group of viewers than almost any other community on the internet. I can almost guarantee you that. And like, I mean, at least among guys, right? We don't have a lot of girls that watch, okay? But like among guys, we absolutely do. And the reason why is because, yeah, except women. Yeah, there's no women, though. No, women are not allowed. No girls allowed. But besides the sausage fest, yes, definitely. President Trump says nice house as he enters the new palace.
I've never played a Silent Hill game. I don't think I've really played any horror games, I mean, not properly. So what would happen if someone like me played a remake of arguably one of the scariest horror games of all time, Silent Hill 2. For reference, I managed to avoid spoilers for this game and pretty much all of the other Silent Hill games as well, so I'm not going to be talking about story spoilers in this video, and I'm also not going to be offering any comparison to the original, as that's not my basis. I'm here to talk about my experience as a new player as I was going in blind. I'll set the scene as to how the game begins to give any new players an idea of how it feels to play this game. From the start, you are immersed in a world of murky greens, rusty browns, and depressing grey. After the intro cutscene, there's this stretch of about 4 or 5 minutes where nothing really happens. No sudden scares, just James, our protagonist, walking from his car into the town of Silent Hill. And this nothingness is suffocating. Time starts to lose meaning as you walk through the fog. Your visibility is reduced to just a few steps ahead, and the forest hums with subtle yet unsettling sounds that you can't quite place as wildlife, but don't care too long to stick around to find out. Then you reach a well, unassuming at first, but as you approach, an ominous red glow emanates from inside it, the low, droning soundtrack rising. And I will be repeatedly talking about sound and the audio design in this game, because my god, if it isn't one of the most impactful aspects of it. When you peer over the edge into the well, you see a red square floating in the water. It's a pretty strange thing to find here, abstract. The thing stares back at you, and to your surprise, this is actually your save point. Honestly, I could write a whole video on the uniqueness of the save points in this game. It teaches you early on to look for these red squares, and despite now knowing what they are, they still continue to make you feel uneasy. I remember this one time where a particular save point was located in this hallway with these dark corridors branching off, and in front of it, a covered and heavily locked box atop a pedestal attached with these spiked metal chains from either side. How open and sinister for a place to pause your game. It's no quiet, warm study with delicate, soothing background music. It's paranoia. That's one of the reasons why this game works so well. You're never allowed to feel safe. There are essentially 6 main environments within this game, and I'll be mainly talking about the different types of horror in each area, so there's going to be 0 character and story spoilers. I genuinely want anyone who hasn't played this game to go play it, so if you don't want spoilers about what you find in the areas, click off this video now and go buy the game. I'll broadly define them as town, apartments, hospital, prison, labyrinth, and hotel. As you progress, the world gets stranger, more disjointed, and emotionally intense. The town is just wonderful. I can see why Silent Hill is as iconic as I've heard it to be. It's moody, desolate, and eerie. A perfect introduction that something isn't right in this world. Everything feels wrong. Overgrown streets, empty buildings, vandalism. You stumble into a flower shop and find a bloody smear on the floor. James mutters,
"What is this?"
When it's painfully clear what it is, it's blood. Later at the crossroads, you find a larger splatter. More of this stuff, he says. This strange detachment James has, his refusal to call it what it is, makes you uneasy. It hints at his own fractured psyche, a theme that only deepens as you progress in the game. At this point, you haven't actually fought anything. You don't even have a weapon. The only other human interaction at this point was a brief cryptic conversation with a girl named Angela in a graveyard. So why do I feel so terrified? Eventually you see your first enemy. It's not a fight though, not yet. It's a figure, vaguely human, shrouded in fog, moves unnaturally, whirling towards a house, its guttural groans cutting through the silence. The game breadcrumbs you its horrors, teasing you with just enough to let your imagination spiral. Your first real combat encounter happens in a cramped, dimly lit room, armed with nothing but a wooden plank with some spikes on the end. You're forced into a desperate, messy melee against this grotesque creature. It's it's clumsy, it's chaotic, and it sets the tone perfectly as to how James will navigate this world. You get a better look at the creature here. There's this strange zipper-like pattern running up its back, with these little fixtures resembling corset fastenings or the clasps of a bra. It struggles, its arms and head appearing trapped under a layer of viscera. It's horrifying. All it can do is stagger around on its platform heels and vomit in your direction. This is your first glimpse into the body horror that makes up the enemies in this game. Distorted, perverse, and weirdly suggestive. I probably sound like some kind of deviant to any of you who haven't played this game, but trust me, all of these horrors except for one are female for a reason and tailored for James. Now, I've talked too much about the town, but for me, it served as a great start to a horror game. It doesn't throw you into the deepest pits of hell straight away and go, "Here, scary, right?" It's believable. All you know is that James is looking for his wife, Mary, in the town of Silent Hill. Okay, that sounds easy enough. But as you explore, you start to think, hey, why is there a 20-foot wall of bedsheets blocking my way? And, that's a weird message written on the wall. Something is not right here, but whether it's the town itself or seeing it through the lens of our main character, that you'll have to discover. Next are the apartments, which are the opposite of the town. They're dark, cramped, and claustrophobic. What lies in the stairwell, behind a locked door, or in the closet? Here you experience a lot of strange phenomena, short interactions with new characters, and a new enemy type. Now this area seems to have catered to what I find personally quite scary, corridors and mannequins, the latter of which is exactly that new enemy type. In a room filled with sheet-covered figures and clothes, just for a second you think it might be a cop-out until this abomination jumps at you. Legs on legs, which kicks or punches you. Oh my god, this was my favourite enemy design and encounter by far. I even cosplayed them, for goodness sake. I loved them so much. The scares in this game consist mostly of tension, shock, but not really jump scares in the overdone sense. However, these legs definitely are the most gotcha of all the enemies. They hide, they pretend to be furniture. Whenever I entered a room that looked too calm and good to be true, I would think, where are the legs? They did grow on me. I love to hate them, but I hate to love them. As per the art director, the inspiration for this particular creature design is spoiler territory, but the impression I got when I played it for the first time just added to my suspicions of anatomy and horror, an entity made entirely of shapely legs. You find this sexy, James? This is your idea of the peak female form? Anyway, back to another scary element, the corridors. One particularly stomach-dropping moment was when I was walking down one of the apartment hallways. You learn that this section of the building is undergoing renovations, and as you explore, the background noise begins to change. Something that sounds like distorted, muffled, heavy breathing. And then there's static. I haven't mentioned the radio yet, but basically it's an automatic game mechanic that acts as an audio cue to let you know when enemies are nearby. And as you inch forward, with the deep breathing and the radio going wild, you see a red glow ahead. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, my brain logically concluded that must be a save point, only to rush forward and realize, no, that's not a save point, that's one of the most iconic Silent Hill enemies of all time, Pyramid Head. Only a thin chain-link fence separates James from this entity, but he doesn't try to attack. He just stands there, staring at you. And then shortly after exploring the rooms, you find yourself on the other side, but now Pyramid Head is nowhere to be seen. Or is he? Pyramid Head is a recurring character, that's not the last you'll see of him, and I really enjoyed all of his encounters. Odd for a guy who doesn't have a single line of dialogue, what can be conveyed through body language and symbolism. After a close call with Pyramid Head, a second time, you cross into a different place, the Otherworld. From my understanding on a first playthrough, it's basically a grimier, more difficult and more stressful version of the area you were just in. So here you are in the Otherworld apartments. And it sucks here. You get an upgraded version of that first enemy type. Their appearance slightly changes to lean even more into the BDSM aesthetic, and now they burst into poisonous gas when you defeat them. Yay. And then there's apartment 209. I have an absolutely massive bone to pick with you. I can't possibly convey how disturbed I was entering this particular room and having my ears violated. Am I being overdramatic with this? Absolutely. It's just a whisper, but walking into that room and hearing this made my skin crawl. The fact that it's projected as a whisper, yet the volume raised uncomfortably loud, the smacking, the sibilance, the fast pace, you can't make out anything that it's saying, let alone who is saying it. The room is empty, it's the unexpected and the incomprehensible that really makes this game. I regrettably had to re-listen to this part many times for this video, and I still couldn't understand what was being said. I did look it up though, and from what I've read, there's no concrete conclusion. Some guesses have definitely altered my hearing of it on repeated listenings, but apparently the original clean audio track was found to be a generic sound effect, something intended to make up stock whispering sounds. And that might be a bit anticlimactic to hear, but I think it's wonderful how many theories and interpretations of the audio the community has come up with. And that is kind of also why this game is so great. I really doubt that two people would arrive at the same conclusion after playing this game and what they take from it. Anyway, I'm fighting not to analyze everything I found here. It's not this kind of video. We're talking about what is scary. And what else is scary? Hospitals. This area is huge, with multiple floors and a lot of up and downs. The background noise is also deeply unsettling. More breathing, pipes groaning, and machine-like noises like a ventilator. You also get the nurses, or should I say the bubblehead nurses, and I love how they're introduced. When you first enter the hospital and do this mini puzzle, you come across a photograph of some of the staff. However, all of their faces appear smeared and unrecognizable, and then later, with the lights flickering, a figure stumbles towards you. Into the light, you see the short, dirty, once white uniform, stockings, garter, and covered head twitching inhumanely fast, blurring and spluttering. God, it's so disturbing and yet so hard to look away from at the same time. For some people, hospitals are a very scary setting, let alone the concept of a horror game area. A place meant to help and heal people, somewhere meant to be clean and safe. Yet why do we only remember the pain, the bad news, memories? As you play, it becomes suggested that this is what James associates this place with. If you're familiar with my Elden Ring videos, then oh boy, you know how much I love to read flavor text. Many notes are scattered throughout this game, newspaper clippings, journal entries, reminder notes. The hospital is filled with things to read, mostly the ramblings of patients whose grip on reality is slipping away, and some of these notes don't make complete sense, yet somehow they hit with this strange clarity that sticks with you. One in particular is, "This will take you where you need to be, though probably not the way you want to." And there's bound to be some pain involved. There always is. Reading this felt like a weight had hit my gut, although I didn't know why yet. And right on cue, things immediately escalated after this moment. Another sudden encounter with Pyramid Head that scared the life out of me. And funnily enough, he throws you down a couple of floors into what looks like the hospital's psychiatric ward. Well, very fitting. Shortly after, you also encounter a new enemy type in a boss fight with this brilliant build-up, a shocking reveal, and yet another execution of great body horror. The phrase, "What the hell am I looking at?" was repeated many times throughout this game. This monstrosity is an amalgamation of flesh trapped in a metal cage, legs dangling lifelessly like a rag doll, and underneath it all is this smacking, writhing mouth that earns it the name Fleshlip. The placement of this mouth between the legs of the body bag is once again very fascinating. There's something so unique about the way you fight in this game. I wouldn't necessarily classify it as something typical within the action genre. It's slow, deliberate, and methodical, but the pacing works in its favour. It lets you take in the horrifying details of each monster, their design, their meaning. fleshlit burrows above the ceiling panels, dangling down just long enough for you to land a shot at the exposed flesh beneath the cage. With every attack, the metal gradually breaks apart, eventually falling to the floor, and you can actually see one limp arm hanging off the top. My point is that having the time to notice all these details while still keeping the tension high is to the game's merit. And after this, you go to the otherworld version of the hospital. Oh my god, it sucks here. The sounds are so horrible, the stressful drones that won't stop, some kind of machine alarm beeping, and at one point you even hear a heartbeat in one of the rooms. I hate it, but it's so good. Well, at least we get a new nurse design, which looks like they're wearing a darker version of their uniform and fighting with a blade instead of a metal pipe. And some also really harrowing stuff that I can't go into detail for spoiler reasons. When you leave the hospital, you're reminded that time is passing, although the sensation is incredibly warped. When you first came here, the sun was setting, golden hours splashing through the windows, and even a breeze. It was almost peaceful. Now you're alone. It's pouring with rain. You don't know if you're in the other world, the real world, or if the real world is even real. He who is not bold enough to be stared at from across the abyss is not bold enough to stare into it himself. The door that wakes in darkness, opening into nightmare. Or perhaps you are a fool. The truth usually betrays people. After stumbling around the overworld and having a great introspective time, you will eventually head to a tunnel, and there you meet probably my least favourite enemy. In the pitch black, you will hear the thwack and splat as something charges towards you, although not on the ground level, with two bulging club-like arms, and at the end, maws that act like sucker cups. Those are mouths, okay? I mean, YouTube, they literally are, but I know what you think they are. And just when I couldn't get even more disturbed, some tentacle-like appendage comes out of the central mouth and strikes at you. Moving on. You are directed to a place called the Historical Society, which fittingly offers great exposition about the town of Silent Hill. You get some really disturbing images and revelations here, but the weirdest of them all is a mine shaft somehow in the back wall, which leads you on a very long descent down into hell. Once again, this game manages to be scary when technically nothing is happening. You keep going down and down and down these stairs, a foghorn blaring in the distance. You can see some fixture on the wall, and then a few seconds later you see it again. Is that the same one? No, it can't be. Am I still going down? Am I going through a loop? How long have I been running? All of these thoughts going in your head until finally you arrive at the prison. Now, if the location of this area wasn't strange enough, you also have to jump down a deep hole in the floor. This isn't the first time James has made some questionable jumps in this game, but they really ramp up here. You get the feeling that you are literally descending into hell, and this area is hell. It is so incredibly stressful here. Dark, dank, damp. All of these words mean the same thing. More falling, more dreamlike conversation.
Hi, James.
But without the solace and security that a dream would bring. It's more like solitary confinement and the maximum security of a prison. It's disorientating, it's multi-leveled, and it has a new enemy leg type that scuttles above your line of sight, really taking advantage of the timer-based light system here. The tick, tick, tick that speeds up to let you know that you're about to be plunged into darkness again. Religious iconography and the crime and punishment element is rampant here, as you're tasked with collecting these weights that you put in front of a Lady Justice statue. Also, this courtyard area is probably the most scary part of the prison. I mean, just looking on the map and seeing the sheer size of this area did not inspire good feelings. Actually going into it for the first time is even worse. In complete darkness, if you deviate from walking completely straight ahead to the scales, you will hear footsteps moving, galloping around you, but nothing that you can see. It makes you not want to stick around, but sadly you have to keep going back to this area as part of the puzzle. Later, the area becomes more visible and reveals not the source of the noise, but more horror and torment. This area presented horror in a much less subtle way. That's not necessarily a criticism. It was still scary, but a stressful kind of scary. Having to rapidly input a random combination of 3 digits while being bitten at by a swarm of bugs. You enter a small cell and the doors swing closed behind you, locking you in this enclosure with metal spikes from floor to ceiling for an agonizing minute, and more inexplicable audio scares. Gotta love those. Now you'll find yourself in the penultimate area with 2 more deep holes to jump down, and then this really excruciating elevator descent. Welcome to the Labyrinth, probably one of the strangest game areas. As you enter the first sub-area, it's reminiscent of the apartments. Dingy hallways, old newspapers. How does this place exist so far underground? We are underground, right? This subsection is mostly to do with the character of Angela, who I briefly mentioned in passing, and I'm not going to go into her because she deserves a whole other video essay on her character. But the boss fight here, Abstract Daddy, was incredibly visceral. It disturbed me quite deeply, and honestly made me fear one's own Silent Hill and what personal monsters could haunt you. The center point of the labyrinth is one of the most mind-boggling things conceptually. A rotating cube with different faces and symbols. With each turn, you change the alignment of the doorways and stairs, reminiscent of the enigma and mystery of an M.C. Escher painting. Also in this area is a strange wall, an archway filled with what looks like flailing limbs, perhaps legs. James is unable to pass through at this moment. Perhaps they stop him, or maybe he simply doesn't want to throw himself into the fleshy wall orifice. Each sub-area of the labyrinth has more unfathomable horrors to it. More bloody meat bags swinging like a pendulum, more fleshlight demons, desolation, callbacks, panic. Now, as nauseating as navigating this labyrinth was, the culmination and departure of this area was incredible. But you'll have to experience the satisfaction of all these things coming together for yourself. And finally, the hotel. Probably one of my favourite areas in this game because it kind of comes out of left field as to what one expects from the last area of a horror game. It's light, it's beautiful, it's pristine and spacious. The hotel itself is a vital plot point of the story and serves as closure. As much as I would like to discuss it and why it's significant, I'm just going to sum up some of the most scary moments that I found. The hotel's serenity and almost perfectly preserved nature is its scariest thing. A moment captured in time, so that when James starts to remember, starts to piece together
Square Enix has been making a lot of really poor decisions over the past couple of years by pushing away the audience they already had and chasing a brand new one. And unfortunately for them, it seems like over the next few years, if they don't turn things around, they're gonna go under. And now they're revealing, of course, this plan to reboot the company over the next 3 years, and gamers are wrecking them for it, saying, I don't even think they're going to make it that long. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, I did an individual video already on this whole company reboot. Over the next 3 years, they have to shift things around strategy, and that video will be linked down below. But I think that the response is very telling because a lot of gamers don't even think that they're going to make it that long, and I completely agree. They have not been listening to us for years at this point, and it is very hard to trust them and to give them even more opportunities than we already have. And when you look at what they've got lined up, it doesn't look very good. It's just ports. It doesn't seem like they're actually trying to innovate. And the last time they tried to innovate, they failed spectacularly because that was with Forspoken. They dumped hundreds of millions of dollars into that, and it didn't turn out financially sound for them. But every company is struggling to a certain extent right now, unless you're, of course, in the top 1%. But Square Enix used to be one of the pillars in the gaming industry. The reason why so many people ended up looking at JRPGs and what different types of developers in different regions were making is because they were doing something unique and original. They weren't worried about westernized guidelines and standard Western fare. They were trying to make things that felt new and fresh. And while there are still some Japanese developers that do that, we've had to also look at Chinese developers now and South Korean developers because Japan is filled with a lot of businessmen and investors and, of course, studios that want to chase making as much money as possible. They are willing to sacrifice creativity if it means making a few extra dollars, and a lot of those companies now chase those sweet, sweet ESG bucks. They are more worried about fitting into the Western industry than standing out from the crowd, which is, again, what made them popular in the first place. And now they're, of course, emphasizing that they're going for quality over quantity for its games business, but what they're explaining they're going to do sounds like anything but that. It says that they've come up with this new strategy to help it realize these goals. The company has now revealed more details on its Square Enix Reboots and Awakens medium-term plan that will unfold over the next 3 years. Yeah, there's a lot of people saying, are they even going to be alive for 3 years? That seems pretty generous. According to Square Enix, it plans to adopt a multi-platform approach for its games, leading to major titles being released on a consistent basis starting March 2027. So we're not even talking about the end of 2025 or 2026. We're talking about 2027. It says all of its games titles will be placed under the management of the same studio, and this will allow for all of its in-house knowledge to be consolidated, accumulated, and shared, Square Enix added. This new approach has also resulted in several in-development games being canceled, as Square Enix decided to focus its resources on funding other projects instead. And you might be thinking to yourself, they're a game development company. They are going to be releasing a lot of new and unique and original games, but that is not the case because first of all, they've canceled a ton of projects, but second of all, they're just focusing on re-releasing games on other platforms. While it is working to keep costs down, it has also adopted a multi-platform release strategy for a number of its games. This includes releasing Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade to Nintendo Switch sometime in the future, so rip your Nintendo Switch because it is definitely going to explode.
And after Ubisoft earnings report, so bro, this was really funny for me to see this. There were a lot of people that were on like massive copium here that Assassin's Creed did super well. Here's the real question, right? If they announced that the company was doing really well and Assassin's Creed was actually a huge commercial success and it was the big game that everything was riding on, why was the result of this earnings report that the stock went down? That's a 20% drop.
If you go and actually listen to the earnings report, it's obvious why.
The quarter was marked by the Assassin's Creed Shadows release that launched on March 20, delivering the second highest day one sales revenue in franchise history and setting a new record for Ubisoft day one performance on the PlayStation Digital Store.
what is the sort of hurdle rate that Assassin's Creed Shadows has crossed in terms of units sold? Thank you.
Yeah, so on Assassin's Creed Shadows, we don't disclose units sold.
They never actually said they sold 3 million copies and instantly dodged the question.
Assassin's Creed Shadows has now been beat out by Assassin's Creed Odyssey, a game that was added to Steam almost 7 years ago. How many of you, whenever you're doing your report to your company that you work at, you tell your boss, I've got good news. We only lost $90 million. And 9/11, so Mighty Keith, 9/11 for grifters. Listen, I don't know why these people are so allergic to reality. It also set a day one record for performance on PSN. Day one PlayStation Network Ubisoft performance record. Like, do you understand how many qualifying statements that goes through? And I even made a tweet about this. I said this should have been obvious to anyone when they started using deceptive vocabulary, players versus sales, and unorthodox and irrelevant success points. No one who's winning does this, only losers do. Why is it a massive success and the stock goes down? The copium with this is unbelievable. Just be honest. What are we doing here? Why are we even having this conversation?
Yeah, so on Assassin's Creed Shadows, we don't disclose units sold.
Disrespectful IRL streamer now facing
Someone sent me this. It's interesting. The Marathon Alpha release recently and its environments are covered with assets lifted from the poster designs I made in 2017. Bungie, of course, is not obligated to hire me when making a game that draws overwhelmingly from the same design language I have refined the last decade, but clearly my work was good enough to pillage for ideas and plaster all over their game without pay or attribution. Oh. Wait, what? I don't have the resources nor the energy to spare to pursue this legally, but I have lost count of the number of times a major company has deemed it easier to pay a designer to imitate or steal my work than to write me an email. In 10 years, I've never made a consistent income from this work, and I'm tired of designers from huge companies moonboarding and parasiting my designs while I struggle to make a living. So, hold on. Which one is his design? Is it the one here on the left? It's the yellow one here, right? It's hard for me to know, like, unless you've got like timestamps on when you created this. Link in the bottom left. Wait, hold on. Let's go take a look at this link. Yeah, this was posted September 28, 2017. So he's saying this was also a post of 2017. This is one of the logos here. And he's saying that this logo inside of the game. Okay, yeah. See, so he's got these right here, these icons. God, dog it. There's no way this is in game. There's no way. This is so no. Go, hold on, guys. Dude, that's crazy. Hold on. Okay, so look at these. I need to, here's the thing. I need to pull up footage. Because, like, y'all remember when Paul Tassi photoshopped Hive runes inside of Destiny and baited us? There's ways you can make things look legit. Here's the thing. I don't know. I don't think this guy did it, but I just need to make sure. The point is, you could bait anyone. But this was a post put out 2017. So right here. So hold on. Posted September 28, 2017. Look at these icons. It's a lot of similarities. All right. Literally my logo. Okay. Yeah. So he's saying literally his logo. Okay. And then this logo right here turned upside down. This one right here, 28. Yeah. Some more of his logo there. Then right here, hold on. There's this image. Okay. So this was part of the ARG. Remember the ARG images that were being thrown out? Let me pull this up real quick. Yeah. Look, this is the image right here that was posted. This was posted back in 2017 as well. And I know there's like some of you are like, what's the big deal? Well, anyone stealing anybody's shit is a big deal. Number two, it's an even bigger deal if you're a $1 billion company. You know what I'm saying? I think it's a big deal. Now, this one right here, the style is the same. No, actually, there's a lot that's the same here. That's a lot the same here. You could definitely say some major inspiration was pulled from this guy. You could definitely see it. There's no way I cannot see it, guys. This one right here is more concerning to me because it seems like straight up copy pasta here on this. Look at this strip right here. This strip right here just seems straight up copied. It's concerning, man. It's concerning. And it doesn't bode well for the whole Red War campaign lawsuit, which I don't really know what's going to happen with all that. You know what I mean? That guy could be full of shit. We'll see. So, Cross, whose side are you on? The person who's in the right here's side is who side I'm on. You know, if somebody is the one who put in a lot of fucking work and that's their inspiration, they should be compensated for it. And look, we had this Bungie's had this issue before in the past. Chad, who was the artist Bungie reached out to and got paid? There was an artist Bungie had to reach out to and pay. And look, here's the reality. I don't know who made these designs at Bungie. You know what I mean? Bungie could just remove it. The ARG though they can't. That ARG is already out. So you could definitely say there was heavy inspiration from this. You could try to say no, you didn't get any inspiration from it. Maybe you could. In my opinion, pay the guy. That's my opinion. Reach out to him or give him a job. Obviously, if you actually did use his work, give him a job. No, I wouldn't say it's Joe Cross's fault. You know, I don't know. But I mean, like, you don't have just one artist. You got your artist and you got tons of people that work under them. I will say this. This is what I think. You could have all types of people on a team, and there's a lot of pressure for you to stand out. And sometimes you're like, hey, you come across some shit that looks really, really good, and you want to make a splash, and there might be some copy pasta right there. You know what I mean? Oh, I'm not saying it's not theft. I'm not saying it's not wrong. Of course it's wrong. I'm just saying that I think that happens in a lot of places, like a lot of industries, dude. The pressure is on. People are trying to stand out, and then eventually they'll resort to doing some crazy shit to do it. You know what I mean? I think the chevrons are a stretch. The other two are sus, if real. Yeah, the chevrons are... The double up, though. And then, like, this right here. You know what I mean? There's no, like, bevel, no nothing. All right. So, say that's a stretch. Okay. This one right here, though. This one right here, that's why this is the one that's going to get you in trouble. This one right here. My graphic designers in here, my folks that are... This is your industry. You looking at the information you see here, plagiarism. Clear cut to you guys, plagiarism. 100%. Absolutely. Well, Bungie, better get ready to break out that wallet, man. You know, look, I got thumbnail artists, too. Obviously, we're not pushing out $1 million games or anything like that. But to be honest with you, if someone approached us and said, hey, listen, your thumbnails are stealing and ripping all of my shit, all of your ideas are coming from me, two things would have to occur. One, we would have to compensate them in some way. And then two, we would have to let go of our thumbnail artists. There's just no other way. You know what I mean? There's just no other way. If he's stealing from that guy, who's to say he's not going to steal from another one? Look at the screenshots I got from Gordon's from the alpha. The design is in game. This is from the alpha. It's in game. Oh my God, it is. It's right there. Rep. Bungie, y'all better pay this guy. That's all I can say, man. To keep this from blowing up, I would get out ahead of this, immediately message the guy, and make shit happen. You know what I mean? I haven't had the name that good. Wondering the graphic designer is a graphic designer at all. You can add this to a collection. Damn. Oh my God. Hold on 1 second. Hold on. This is... Jesus Christ, dude. So we were covering the plagiarizing stuff earlier. We went into, you know, looking at this as fairly as we possibly could. But this right here, guys. Poster right here from Elaine. They haven't even hid the name that good. Wondering if the graphic designer is a graphic designer at all. You can add this to a collection. So you see the original picture here, right? You can literally see the words. And then right here, it's God dog it, dude. This is a disaster, fellas. I like, again, we went into this being like, look, let's be fair about this. You know, maybe, you know, especially with all the stuff going on with the Red War campaign, Curse of Osiris, and that lawsuit, it can't be any more obvious. This is bad. Can I just say, guys, Marathon is a PR nightmare. I don't know. I mean, it's Bungie's thing that coincides with Destiny. And look, this is me not like, look, every now and then we doomsday post, right? Let's just be frank with you. We doomsday post. We mess around, right? This is bad. This is just really bad. I don't really know, like, because this is the kind of thing, the game's not even out yet. Now you've got, already the narrative is, you got a game that's undercooked. Now you got a game that's not gonna, that you know, people are associating with Concord 2.0, whatever. But then it was like, but then Arc Raiders rolled out. So it's like, Arc Raiders was already a good-looking game to begin with, made so even more when compared directly to Marathon. And so everybody's like, the dialogue here is, there's no way Marathon's going to be able to compete against other extraction shooters, not even the established ones, much less the new ones that are coming out. And then now, you've got straight-up copy pasta happening here. I mean, this is straight-up plagiarism. There's no other way to talk about it. There's no other way to see it. So Joseph Cross right here, who is the franchise art director for Marathon. So lucky to have worked with Kurapa Hosk from close to the beginning of Marathon's visual development, identities, custom, topography, ARG, campaigns, and much more. So the guy from Sweden, we're a brand and design agency, and we inspire progress. Oh my God. So did these guys steal the design? I think that's what's going on here. So this thing could have been outsourced to this Kerpahosk, because this is not the original account that posted up those images. I know Joe Cross follows the artist too, yes, but this is Joe Cross back on May the 5th, so 10 days ago, essentially shouting out this Kerpahosk. Does Bungie get caught having to pay or do the contract? Look, dude, I don't know. I don't know. This isn't the first time Bungie has been in this situation, and that's the messed up part about all of this. You know, Sweatsickle actually just put out a tweet on this. They stole the Ace of Spades Nerf gun art before and played stupid. They've done it again and will continue to do it unless there is actual legal ramifications from this disgusting behavior from corporate Bungie. Here's the thing, man. This has got to be stopped. This one, I mean, I can't remember the Ace of Spades Nerf gun thing, but was it like a direct one-to-one on that one too? They actually ended up, did they end up paying that guy? Oh, yeah. This was the Ace of Spades thing. Hey, Bungie help Destiny the game. So the Nerf Ace of Spades directly lifts a commission I did in 2015. This is not similar or a coincidence. You can see my same brush strokes and scratch smudges. Oh, yeah, dude. This was... So if I remember this correctly, yeah, Tofu Bunny. This was the Ace of Spades situation here. Mine, okay. And you see the brush strokes, literally the logos here. There are some changes here and there. Yeah. If I remember correctly, they did end up paying this artist. But yeah, it's rough, man. So right here, even Tofu says, I don't blame Bungie, TBH. This is contracted people lifting some obscure work I did in 2015. But yeah, feels like a punch to the gut. I've been playing this game for a decade, and this just sucks. They're going to throw Kerpla hosts under the bus. I don't know, man. I don't know where the designs came from. Here's what I do know. This in square, this person right here, this individual, that was their stuff. All their images right here that they posted, the original images, were images that dated back to 2017, guys. I don't know how Sony feels about this, Burning Vikings. It's not a good look. It's definitely not a look you want from your studio that you spent $3.6 billion for. You know what I mean? You want to see original works. And these images right here dating back to 2017, this individual, this is their work, 1000%. And they need to be compensated. I don't even know, like, I don't know how much has been paid to the other guy that Joe Cross was given credits to, but brother, yoink that, divert that. There's nothing wrong with getting inspired by creative arts, but you always got to take care of those artists and reward them somehow. Dude, this is not inspiration here, guys. This is copy pasting this shit. Like, look, I'm with you guys on like a lot of things. And like, I could be like, well, you know, look at this. The text is still here. It's still here. Control C, Control V. The numbers, 2017, this was out. Dude, and like, hold up. Like, why even copy and paste this? What does this have anything to do with anything? Like, hold on. Like, you just suddenly were just like, damn. I mean, this is like a last minute project kind of thing. You're like, I got nothing to put on this map. I'm just gonna put this shit here. You know what I mean? Like, what? This is not inspiration. This is like, this is the meme of, yeah, you can copy a homer and just, you know, you make it a little different. This is just straight up, just, there's no other way to put it. And if it is, you know, whoever the case is, it really doesn't matter. It's Bungie now. It's their mess. And it's a terrible, terrible look for Marathon. Because this is going to be the conversation. This is going to be the main topic at hand all the way leading up to Marathon. First, it was, is Marathon capable? Can Bungie make a good game? Can they make an extraction shooter? Then it would divert it from that to, nah, man, it ain't going to be good. It's going to be dead on arrival. And now it's dead on arrival and they still aren't. Oh my God, dude. Dude, somebody's got to do like, who catches this, guys? Someone at companies have to catch this kind of shit, right? Like, hold on. Like, could you not reverse image search shit? I know you can't reverse image search everything, but could you not reverse image search some stuff and see what it pulls up? You reverse image search this, and then it pulls up this from fucking 7 years ago, 8 years ago. Hot damn. Is this worse than the Concorde? The thing is, it's like, thank God pre-orders aren't available because people be refunding right now. It's not a good look. And the sooner Bungie gets out ahead of this and approaches the right people, this being this person right here, I would just give them a job. I would just be like, hey, listen, and you know, get with the, if they got the outsource artwork from the company out of Sweden, be like, look, where did your images come from? You know what I mean? Get to the bottom of that. Straight up terminate them. And literally, and at this point, it's like, how much can this person even do for Marathon? Compensate them. Then compensate them what you compensated the other person. I just realized Bungie took inspiration from my piece for this week's cutscene. Certainly took me by surprise when I watched the cutscene. Oh my God, this was back in 2023. Jesus Christ. You know, here's the thing. I just don't walk around with this kind of information on me at all times. I don't come equipped. It's at 20,000 likes. I don't come equipped with this kind of stuff. I forget about this. I forget about it. This is a problem, though. There's no solution to except to blow up legally and financially to companies that rip from artists and sell to game studios, make it a death sentence to do things like this. Yeah. But I will say this. This is all around a bad look. You got the Ace of Spades Nerf gun. think there was some other stuff. You got this issue with Marathon, and then, and I still think it's a stretch, but you got the plagiarism issue with Curse of Osiris and Red War Campaign. There's an entire lawsuit going on right now with an author that went by the name Casper Cole of Louisiana, of all places, saying that his story was stolen to make the Red War and Curse of Osiris campaigns. Here's the thing. I'm not a lawyer, but they're in the process of discovery right now. Can Casper Cole, could they bring this information in to discovery? Will it have anything to do with his case? Could they use it? All right. Well, that's that, guys. What was, you know, kind of on the fence of being bad has just dipped into pretty bad. Pretty bad. Not a good look. Doesn't look good. We'll see what shakes out with all this.
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.
A weirdo had a business where he treated his customers worse than TikTokers treat fast food employees, and a YouTuber named Louis Rossmann called him out for his bad behavior and horrible business practices, and as a result, this business owner, he got very upset, and he pulled up his britches and did what you should never do on the internet landscape. He filed fraudulent strikes against the channel that was calling him out. That is a big-time no-no right there. That's like the Walter White in the car screaming meme. Like, you never want to do that because it's always disastrous. And Rossmann is a big channel. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with his work. And in poking this bear, it led Louis Rossmann on his own investigation, following trails of breadcrumbs and eventually compiling court documents and credible sources. And he alleges that this business owner is most likely this man with a criminal history, a very serious criminal history. Like, it's not Weenie Hut Jr. at all. It's not like he smoked the devil's lettuce one time, caught with weed. The charges that this individual faced were child sex offenses, and as a result, it has led to him and his business being completely gadooshed. I highly recommend watching Louis Rossmann's full video on this. I just want to go over bits and pieces of it because it is fucking nuts.
I'm going to be following up on the video that I did on Better Way Electronics the other day. Before we get started on the video, there's two things I have to go into because this gentleman has repeatedly tried to strike my videos down on privacy and defamation claims.
Now, this slug creature is doing this to anyone that's even covering this topic right now, where he is filing fraudulent strikes to try and have like the videos blocked or taken down. But YouTube themselves is seeming to step in and put the kibosh on that because it is just complete baloney. It's just absolute malarkey. So it's not going through, but this guy is actively doing the best he can to try and scrub this and censor it. I'm familiar with at least one other channel that's talked about this and has made a video about it that has faced a similar claim against them, trying to have that video removed by this guy. So I'm very certain that he's going to try the same for me here now that I'm also talking about it.
The first thing we need to go over when it comes to privacy and doxing, that the messages that I'm going to be showing in this video are messages back and forth between a WhatsApp number and his customers, and this WhatsApp number is public on his business website. If you go to betterwayelectronics.com.au, you'll see that there is a text or WhatsApp right here. This is a public business phone number.
The messages are shared with the customer's full consent for Rossmann to cover them. The WhatsApp number is publicly available, publicly posted by the business itself. There is no privacy or doxing complaint that he can justifiably try and use as an angle to take videos down here. And the defamatory claim that he tries to make as well is also just bogus because he is simply going over credible sources and court documents about it. I'm hoping that when he inevitably tries this clown behavior again here with trying to claim or strike this video, YouTube will do the same thing they've done previously and just shut it down themselves here because he has absolutely no leg to stand on with it.
So BWE has a piece of software that allows you to better understand what's going on with your PlayStation. This allows you to diagnose and repair the console in a way that you wouldn't be able to without his software. I will give him credit there that he's damn good at what he does and making software that makes it easier to fix a PlayStation. The problem is that his software has a very, very weird type of spying DRM in it where it can tell what you're running on your computer. If you're running software on your computer he doesn't like, he bans you. If you're not running other software in his computer, he also bans you.
That's kind of the lore breakdown here in a nutshell with the genesis of this controversy, this beef, what started it. He has software that's a diagnostic tool for PlayStations to help people repair it and figure out what's going on so they can better repair their devices. If you're familiar with Rossman's work, you are probably very familiar with something he is a huge advocate for, which is the right to repair. Basically, you as the owner of a piece of electronics should have the ability to get it repaired. I think that's a very understandable, very simple, very agreeable perspective to have on things. So this guy had a piece of software that would help users better do that and help businesses repair these things as well. It was a good piece of software, but he had a really scummy thing slid in there, a little poison, where it would be spying on its users, and if they had software that they were running or not running, he would ban them. Basically, this guy would be some kind of like power-tripping asshole, delusional maniac weirdo that would just like ban people and then berate them. Like, you're gonna see some messages here in a moment. It is just fucking baffling behavior. Rossman called it out, and for 13 months, he didn't change his ways. Instead, he then tried to take down Rossman's video, which of course harms his channel. This guy never issued any refunds to the people that he wrongfully banned, so Rossman again talked about it because now this guy is actively trying to harm him, and it's led to all of this. So now let's get into a couple of the messages.
Uber Micro Repairs asks, any reason for the license to be revoked? BWE links to the terms and conditions, without saying which term. Uber Micro asks, please point out the one that I have allegedly broken. BWE says, please read it before asking me to read it for you. Though given you've accepted it, you've surely read it. I'm not a mind reader. Please enlighten me on the terms you think I have broken. As far as I'm aware, I did nothing wrong. That software was last used on February 15, 2025, and since that day, the laptop was on my shelf with a dead battery. So again, please let me know what I did wrong. BW responds, then no loss? So he's implying that because Uber Micro has not used this software in 2 or 3 months, that there's no loss if his access to it is revoked.
Hey pal, you just blow in from Stupid Town? Rossman then illustrates just how outlandish that whole idea is, where he talks about how, like, the speaker he has next to him, his Axiom speaker, he hasn't plugged in a month because he's currently using different speakers down there. But imagine if the owners of Axiom came over, took the speaker back, stole it from him, and then said, well, you weren't using it right now anyway, so then no loss. That's ridiculous, right? Well, that's exactly the same case here. He bans him, revokes his access to it because he wasn't using it enough for this guy's liking. That's unhinged. That's crazy.
End of conversation. I honestly have no interest in talking to someone as disgusting as yourself. Please stop talking to me. Thanks. This is not how somebody who is emotionally and mentally healthy responds to a customer. Don't ban customers because of this.
He continues to argue with this customer who's been wrongfully banned for the pettiest reason imaginable. It is just, it's unhinged. It is. And it goes on for a while. I'll only show you one more excerpt from another example Rossman provides, but there is a long history of BWE's owner here being this douchebag to customers and banning people without a real reason.
He's asking for photo ID from the customer. The customer doesn't send photo ID, but he responds with a photo of his receipt. BWE makes fun of him and berates him and says, so wait, when you're driving and a cop pulls you over, you show him this? The customer responds, it's a business credit card in my father-in-law's name. I'm not asking him for a copy of his ID. Louis, so you don't exist, and he doesn't exist. And then he links to the terms. BWE is mocking this customer for not wanting to give him his state ID. He's mocking him for showing the receipt for the software, in spite of the fact that on his own website, he doesn't even have his own name attached to it.
He loves arguing with customers more than Bugs Bunny likes carrots. So I've cut around some of these here, but you can see the way that he behaves. There is a long history and a multitude of examples of him treating his customers like toilet paper, and he is just a completely revolting person to them. Angered upon learning more and more about BWE's behavior, Rossman decided to look more into Louis himself to see what kind of person this guy even is that would do shit like this so frequently and try and actively file these fraudulent strikes against him. So he did a little digging.
Made me sick. Let's talk about BWE. I'm Louis. I have a master's degree in cybersecurity, a bachelor's in management, a bachelor's in information systems, and a diploma in business. I'm currently undertaking a PhD in cybersecurity. So he's going for his degree, and he lives in Brisbane, Australia. His website is registered to Julie Marie Miller Morrison, not Louis. Who is Julie Marie Miller Morrison? Julie Marie Miller Morrison is somebody in Australia that owns Phase 4 Modern. She's listed under this business name. That Donat Harahaj and Julie Morrison own this place. If you look down here, it says that the owners are Donat Dani Taharaj and Julie Morrison. Wonder who's related to Donat Taharaj. Do we find anybody? If you take a look, you'll find this gentleman over here, Louis Tahiri, whose name used to be Luan Taharaj.
Again, I've cut this up a little bit here just to give you the bullet points on how he connects BWE to this individual, Luan Taharaj, or Louis Tahiri. It's, I think, a pretty convincing connection here. Of course, it's all alleged at the moment, but all of the coinky-dinks are very suspicious, eyebrow-raising indeed. It's not just, nonsense Rossman's pulling out of his butt cheeks here.
So, from May 2010 to July of 2024, this man's name was Luan Taharaj. ABNs are kind of like social security numbers in Australia. Your name can change, but this always stays the same. His name is Louis, the name that we know, our individual. Where does he live? Main business location. When you take a look at the postal code, Brisbane, Australia, right where his business is located. Now, let's take a look at when he was registered to do business. He was active from May of 2010 to June of 2013. Now, what may have happened in June of 2013 that caused him to stop doing his business? This is. You ready? 1, 2. Brisbane court jails man for 12 years over internet sex offenses. A Brisbane court has jailed a man for 12 years for offenses including using the internet to procure underage girls for...
unforgivable crimes from this individual, Luan Taharaj, or Louis Tahiri. Absolutely sickening shit. These are all publicly available records that others have also gone down this same rabbit hole and turned up the same results. But again, it is not 100% confirmed beyond a shadow of a doubt that this Louis Tahiri is the same Louis from BWE, though he himself has made a pseudo-statement about it. Apparently he made this Discord post saying, given their goal was defamation, harming the reputation of business, he's not going to contribute any longer, saying that it succeeded, and that whether what they've said is true or not, or whether or not he can prove it, has no meaning any longer. The information provided by those people doesn't reflect his business or himself, and he's also collecting all of this evidence for his own safety and sanity, saying that what's been happening to him is criminal. So he's kind of threatening, nudging that he's going to perhaps be pursuing legal action himself against everyone that's talked about this and Rossman, who's done this investigation. He's basically claiming that he is a liar. He even blatantly just calls him a liar. Now, I know I'm jumping ahead in the timeline a little bit here because this is the most recent video from Rossman covering it. It's BWE's response to his investigation. And BWE responded in the only way he fucking knows how, horseradish complaints. So he filed another privacy complaint, and Rossman points out that the times there include that Brisbane arrest of that individual who was sentenced to 12 years for the child sex offenses. And Rossman illustrates that the only way he could note that as a privacy complaint would be if he was that guy. How could you say that that is a privacy complaint violating your privacy if it's not you? If he is not that guy, then how could that possibly violate his privacy? It just doesn't make any sense. He's calling Louis a liar, but still filing a privacy complaint on that. It just doesn't compute. So it's very messy from BWE's Louis here. Again, it is still all alleged that he is this same individual, but as Rossman also points out, it's very easy for him to prove that it's all a fucking lie if he would come out and do exactly what he berates his customers for not doing, providing his identification. He could easily come out and prove that he is not the same Louis as this child predator, this fucking pedophile. He could easily come out and prove that if he is actually not that guy. But he hasn't. Instead, he's kind of talking vaguely around it, saying it doesn't even matter if it's true or not. That's a really weird response if he's not actually that guy.
He hacked the computer of one of the girls in southern New Wales and threatened her if she did not strip and engage in sexual acts on webcam. Police found 180 child things you can't view on the internet in Texas without a VPN images on his computer, and that he had bragged online about his conduct. He posted images on 2 internet sites along with comments like epic win and enjoy and learn from the master. No remorse. Justice George Freiberg said Tarahaj had shown no remorse and ordered he serve half his 12-year term before being eligible for parole. There's an entire thing over here. This is public from Australia's website, Australia government. So if anybody's watching from YouTube and they think I'm making this stuff up, view this website for yourself. I'll link it down below. I'm going to read you some of the highlights of this.
Rossman then reads some horrifying details of that case. I'm not going to show any of that. That individual is truly evil. It is just beyond disgusting. What I do want to show you a little bit more of from this video, though, is just some other connections that they are very odd coincidences, for sure.
There was going to be a 12-year prison sentence. However, this wound up being commuted to a 4-year non-parole period. 2013. When did his business first end? June 2013. 4.5-year parole period. When would he have been active again? 2018. Wayback Machine. Let's check his website. When did his website become active? 2018. When did he start making commits to GitHub? What did Luan do to the 13-year-old girl? He hacked her computer and he messed with her. What does Louis identify as? A hacker. I eventually shifted my focus from hacking to reverse engineering. When you Google this guy's name, Louis Taharaj, Queensland University of Technology, Brisbane, Australia. Louis Taharaj, Department School of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science. Where was this guy going to school when he was arrested? Queensland University of Technology. Now, when you look at the website, his name's not there anymore, but it was there before because it was screenshotted 2 days ago. It stopped being there yesterday. He bragged on the internet that he made a 13-year-old girl defile herself and advised others how they could do the same. He'd leave his Rolex watch, gold rings, and cash on his desk in view of the webcam when he spoke to the girls. When you look at the court cases, they bring up a gold Rolex as part of the evidence. And when you look at his videos on YouTube, Better Way Electronics, what is he wearing over here? What kind of watch is that? And what color is it? Every one of the videos this guy makes has this little underage looking girl over here with the pink eyes in the bottom of the screen. Same as the shit that I see on his GitHub.
It's a very thorough and pretty convincing investigation. Again, not 100% confirmed or anything as of this moment, but what is confirmed is that BWE took down their socials, like their Twitter is down, as well as the business itself is no longer accessible, citing that, you know, in the midst of all of this, he's taking it offline. So, regardless, he has definitely felt the gadooshing here. And keep in mind, it is entirely of his own making. Even without Rossman's investigation into the potential connection of BWE's Louis and this pedophile Louis, even if that wasn't present, he was still ruining his own business by treating his customers like absolute dog shit, insulting them, banning them for no reason, and just being an all-around terrible fucking person, and then fraudulently striking people that would call him out on bad business practices. He was still actively destroying his own business even before this investigation. Again, I highly recommend you watch Rossman's videos covering this. It is crazy. So, just wanted to talk about this a little bit. That's really it. So yeah. Oh, you've done it now, Buster.
Hey, yo! Chat! That's not bad at all! Oh, sorry. I'll be back in the video in a second. Wait. Yes. Holy shit, I did it! Hey everyone, I am super in love with AI. I'm just kidding. I think we are all tired of AI at this point. The developments that used to be interesting and shocking are now just tiring and a reminder that we are sprinting into a future that is both scary and full of the unknown. Anyways, with each new iteration of this technology, we see a surge in public discourse about it. There is this cycle of everyone being surprised by it at first, then upset by it, and then a rush of AI superfans coming out to defend it. The latest example of this cycle happened a few weeks ago, when OpenAI integrated their new AI art model based on the Studio Ghibli art style into ChatGPT. In the following few days, after spending way too much time reading arguments from the AI art supporters, I came to the conclusion that AI art stands don't understand art.
Dude, I love this guy.
That's the title. Came up with it myself. There are two main arguments made by AI art supporters that I want to focus on. The first one is that AI art is good because the product of art matters more than the creator of said product. The second one is that it will soon replace human artists because of how good said product is. And just so I'm not ranting into the void, I'm going to use the two modern philosophers, XQC and Asmongold, to represent these two ideas, because they are some of the most popular creators that argue these exact points during this recent uproar with the Ghibli AI model. I'm aware that the main target of these recent comments is about the art that you draw, but as AI progresses, there are clearly plans to overtake everything that humans do, so I'm going to focus on all human-created art and content. Anyways, I'm going to begin with the first take that I talked about, the idea that the enjoyment of art is not attached to the creator of it. XQC expresses this idea with slightly different phrasing, saying he consumes the product and not the method.
A lot of AI art coming out is literally better than most artists' best work. If something does better by itself than an artist can for the entire life, I mean, brother, I gotta be honest with you, I don't really give a shit. I don't consume the method, I consume the product.
Now, to be clear, this just isn't true. Think about how you react to art you enjoy and how you describe it to a friend. It's not just good, it's well drawn or beautifully shot, amazingly acted. We usually praise, even if it's subconsciously, the creators of art when we praise art itself. This is true in my last video as well, where I described the musicians I was recommending as having interesting production and pretty vocals. The first one of those is literally talking about how the music is put together, how it's created, and the second one is about the human voices that the creators have. They're both relating back to the artist. When I look at a piece of beautiful art made by a human, I am stunned and impressed and emotionally affected by it. It's a reaction I am having not only to the physical object in front of me, but also to the work put into the art itself. If that same quality of beauty was created by a robot, I might think it's pretty, but I won't be touched or moved by it. And I'm not gaining any human perspective from the art because it's not human created. What I mean by a gain in human perspective is that, in all forms of artistic expression, the artist has put a piece of themselves into their artwork. So when you consume that art, you are being exposed to a part of that person. You are consuming a piece of their identity or thoughts put into that art. There is always this emotional exchange happening. And of course, it's not just a one-way street. I realize that when you're a small child, you might watch a TV show or look at a painting and see only what's in front of you. But as you grow and gain sentience and perspective, I think it's normal and relatable to start to question the artist's intentions behind things. When you do that, it becomes this conversation that you're having with the creator of the art. I think the most obvious demonstration of the creator-art connection is to think of the last time your friend or your partner or someone you care about has created a piece of art. It doesn't matter if they're sketching something or playing me a piece of music. If I enjoy someone's personality, I'm pretty much guaranteed to enjoy their art more. That's because their art is just an extension of that personality. I realize I might sound like an art snob if I keep rambling about it, but I promise that's not the case. This doesn't just apply to whatever high art is. When I sit back and stare at my phone and enjoy an absolutely insane shitpost, that's still a piece of art that has value because an absolutely insane person posted that shit. This principle applies everywhere. It's also true no matter how good you find something to be. Bad movies are hilarious because I watch them in awe of why a director made it that way. Bad songs are only funny because of how awkwardly the lyrics are put together. When a kid draws a shitty doodle of something, first of all, it's adorable. And second of all, it's only interesting because a tiny little brain made it. Of course, art being bad or good in the first place is an example of subjectivity, the very thing that AI can never replicate. Let's strip this down and focus on the basics. A medium of art where AI has been known to be quite convincing at imitating human art, which is just words. There is an artist I really enjoy named Elroy, who not only has the coolest eyes in music, but also a really short and sweet Spotify bio that is just the words infinite love and then a heart emoji. It's partially just a reference to the name of his most recent single, but even without the song, just these 15 characters alone makes me feel something. It reminds me of this perfect mood I'm sometimes in, where I am incredibly happy and I get really appreciative of the people in my life, our connections, and the positive effect we can all have on each other. I start to imagine this overflowing trough of love inside me that I can feel when I'm just at my best and consciously considering the innate good in everyone. Anyways, I am very well aware that that's incredibly corny, and I expect you to make fun of me, but I still think it's valuable. It's this emotional response I'm having to the emotions written in by Elroy to that little sliver of text. Now, let's go back a few steps and say this whole bio was just spit out by ChatGPT. A language model analyzed combinations of English words that have a high probability of being used together, and then shit out 20 bytes of information onto my screen. It's the same words in the same order, but there is no emotion or intent behind them. Instead of being an encapsulation of a genuine human experience, a message written vaguely to be up for interpretation, it's just data. It's valueless, and I have no reaction to it. This is a pretty long-winded build-up, and you can judge me for that because it came from my brain and not a language regurgitation software. But my point is this: no matter the type, quality, or level of art, there is literally no fucking point if it is not made by someone. Another more obvious point about art needing creators is that AI art is basically a bunch of complex data that's been sanded down and made to look familiar, so you lack some of the detail and unique qualities that you'd have in renditions by real artists. That's why all the Ghibli art edits look super flat and samey. There's no exploration of ideas in them. The only example of a good Ghibli AI art render was this, which actually really surprised me. Yeah, just kidding. This is a redraw of a Ghibli frame from a real fucking artist, referenced by a jackass who implied the opposite, didn't credit them, and then got pissed when people called him out on it. You can probably instantly tell how much more soul went into this piece. Look at the energy in the eyes and how alive this feels in comparison to the soulless Snapchat filter slop that ChatGPT spits out. Side note, this is the worst part of the popularization of AI-made art in my opinion. This artist put so much time into this frame, an expression of passion and love for the original work, just for thousands of people to see it, think it was some shit a computer spat out, and use it to confirm their pro-AI art biases. That fucking blows. Let's actually dive a bit deeper on the guy that posted this, because I think just a few of his posts can show us the flawed mentality behind a lot of support for AI art. The first post of interest here is at the top of the thread we were just on, where he posts an AI remake of Princess Mononoke, calls it objectively better, and says this: "The Ghibli art style is plain, uninspired, and the actual reasons people love it is because of the quality of stories the style has been attached to, not the style itself." What? This statement is so moronic, it physically hurt me the first time I saw it. The attachment to the Ghibli art style is not some dim-witted, nostalgic association to its stories, it is a love of the style itself, which is evident in the fact that the Ghibli aesthetic is so universally loved by people who never even watched the movies. The simplicity of it also didn't come from time or hardware constraints. It's a deliberate attempt to give you that innocent, cozy feeling that harsher lines and flashier colors just don't. I don't think a fourth of the people that watch Princess Mononoke would watch it if it looked like this. It completely destroys the vibe of the movie. Anyways, let's go to another post from this user. This time a video of him creating an AI art piece. It starts off with this sketch he draws himself, and with the magic of AI, he turns it into this thing? I hope you agree with me that this is a tragedy. I honestly kind of feel bad for this guy. It is so sad that he can't see how much more visually unique and interesting the image he made without AI is. It doesn't have as much saturation or a background, but the rawness of it actually looks pretty cool. In particular, the face, I think is much, much better on the left than on the right. You lose so much of the character in exchange for just more pixel density. And he unfortunately loves the result and considers the use of this AI tool to have been very helpful to him as an artist. Except, is he really an artist? Clearly, there are things that AI tools can do for artists, like better content selection for photo editors, or machine learning assisted noise reduction for video editors. These work because they aren't creative tasks. It's just taking the boring legwork out of the process. To be an artist, you still have to be in the driver's seat, making the art. And no, entering the prompt yourself does not put you in the driver's seat. It's like putting in the destination for a lift, except this lift only takes you to some approximation of where your destination is, and it somehow burns even more fossil fuels in the process. In giving up on the creative work, coloring, shading, the background, and all these little character details that the AI model handled completely on its own, you're just removing yourself from the art. With each step in the process that is being handed off to artificial intelligence, you are giving up a huge chunk of artistic expression, to the point where calling yourself an artist based off the final result feels like a massive insult to artists that have actually put in the work to translate their emotions, thoughts, and passion into whatever art form they've chosen to use. The flawed mentality that I said would come up with this guy, and that is very apparent in these posts, is that he's clearly picturing art as some sort of objective competition based on absolutes, rather than a form of expression that needs subjectivity and human input to even exist. That's why he somehow thinks that the AI remake of the Princess Mononoke picture is better, and that the AI remake of his sketch is better as well. First off, I obviously much prefer their original forms, but also the idea that there is some sort of objectively better, seemingly more realistic version of art that should be the goal for all artists is absurd. From that lens, everything Picasso ever made is absolute dog shit. Anyways, the response to XQC's comment about consuming the art or content instead of the creator is this: there is no value to consuming art without a creator behind it. And I don't think people want to consistently consume art without a creator behind it. It's just not entertaining. Of course, that argument would fall apart if there were notable evidence of AI art being enjoyed, right? Let's talk about that in the next section, where I'll address Asmongold's giddy statement that it's so over for artists and they should become plumbers instead.
So if you are an artist, this has been a really bad week for you. And I want to promise you that it's going to get worse, okay? And I would focus on career change. Yeah, exactly. And focus, like, go be a plumber or something like that, right? This is here to stay. And this is welcome, gentlemen. Welcome to the new normal.
For that clip to be correct, again, there has to be some large rise in AI art consumption. Let's see if that's true, starting with the most prevalent form of AI art online, which is, again, just word-based art. Articles, poems, stories can all be written by AI now, and they're all flooding the web. But does anyone actually like them? In my experience, it is the exact opposite. People hate the new slop that is consumed articles and other text-based media. They're trying to avoid it, not consume it more. Nobody is sitting down on a Thursday afternoon to sip coffee and read an AI-written storybook. It just doesn't happen. The same is true with any drawing, movie, or song created by AI. Consuming these forms of art is an emotional experience, one that is meant to entertain. If there was no emotion being put into these things for me to enjoy, why would I have an emotional reaction to them? Why would I care about lyrics with no care put into writing them? How could I gaze at a painting made by AI looking for meaning when there is no meaning put into the painting? Honestly, AI drawings and photos are among the easiest to shut down because I essentially never see them garner appreciation from the general public. People have fun using AI art makers as one-off toys or as a way to piss off people who find AI art offensive. But other than that, people tend to very loudly hate AI art. When I'm done scrolling past all the bigoted media in my Twitter feed and I get to the popular art posts with tens of thousands of likes, it is all still human-created art. Speaking of human-created art, check out Euclid on Twitter. I think that's how you pronounce their name. I'm stupid. But if you think this drawing looks raw as fuck, yeah, check them out. I wanted to shout them out, but I didn't actually know when to do so. Anyways, back to the point. AI art just isn't really being consumed. I was talking to a friend about this being the case, and he mostly agreed with me, but he said the exception to this would be adult art, porn. If you are unaware, traditionally, people like to commission artists to draw art of their OC or original character in certain contexts. And even though this might seem a bit random, this isn't for laughs. It is a big part of the online artist economy, so I really want to talk about it. First off, I do see that a lot of AI art is a bit more sexual than necessary, so I get why it might be the first thing that people think of. But I actually don't think there's going to be a big shift towards using AI art for this purpose, especially not one that would replace the humans creating adult art right now. The people that have invented these characters, that have an emotional attachment to them enough to where they'd want to pay for an artist commission of them, are not going to so quickly turn to AI to do the same. This is because people do care about these characters, and I believe they value and want artists drawing them to care about them as well. AI is just not capable of doing that. There is also a lot of AI content on YouTube right now, so let's talk about that because it's relevant. The tools have already been invented, right? AI editing is here, AI video composition is here, and there's no way that AI in its current form couldn't make this exact commentary video. So yeah, there's a slurry of long-form YouTube AI content out there. The thing is, the majority of people aren't watching it. It's not exactly an issue of objective quality. The reason why I don't watch that content isn't because of its production value. Often they are well-paced, highly edited, and I suppose well-written. It's just that there is absolutely no point in it. I am not learning about anyone through the video. I am not experiencing anyone's opinions, thoughts, or expression through the video. And if I wanted basic facts, I could just Google it. So why would I watch this video when the art of video creation has been removed from it? Let me give you another, more personal example. You're half asleep, you're doom scrolling, and you stumble across some AI-generated short. You stick with it because it's been engineered to retain your attention and suck all of your time away. But even though you watch it and thus consume an AI product, I think there's a trend amongst this type of content. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? But I don't know anyone who feels good after watching a video like that. That is the downfall of all AI art creations. They're missing that critical human element that makes all art enjoyable, that makes you think, that makes you feel better, or feel anything at all for that matter. Some might say these flaws, the reasons why AI art is not being consumed by the general public, are only because it's underdeveloped right now. So let's do a little thought experiment. Let's imagine for a second that AI art was absolutely perfect in its technological implementation and could produce perfect art tailored to anyone's needs. In this world, you open Netflix and there is a show in your account made by AI with perfect production that is 100% your desired show to watch. You might watch it once out of curiosity, but would you like it? Would you rewatch it? Would it be your comfort show? It certainly wouldn't be mine. Comfort shows usually require you to have an attachment to the characters, and I don't think viewers would be so easily attached to characters to which no one was even attached enough to create, write, or act. You wouldn't be having social conversations about the show because everyone's is generated differently. You wouldn't be having a conversation with the show because the show isn't trying to say anything, it's just trying to keep your attention. So what are you getting out of this experience? Even in this perfect world, where AI is pandering to you flawlessly, that shit still fucking sucks. One thing that I have to bring up to be fair and just to all the AI art lovers out there is that there is legitimate demand for AI art in those shitposts that are making fun of how weird it looks. So, in summary, AI art is not actually being consumed unless it's the punchline to a human creation. Even if it were fully capable of recreating the surface level details of human art, it still would not have any value because of the reason I stated earlier. The exchange of emotion is gone. Thus, my response to Asmongold's take is this. Why the fuck would you think it's over for human artists? Okay, so I've addressed both major points. The video's over, right? Wrong. I tricked you. Sorry, that was mean, but I didn't do anything for April Fools this year, so I'm catching up. The third and final argument about AI art that I want to address is actually against these streamers, XQC and Asmongold. When both of their clips got shared all over my part of the internet in March, many people were upset and started immediately clowning them, bringing up how ironic it was to celebrate AI art replacing humans when they are so replaceable themselves. The thing is, I actually don't agree. Let me explain. To effectively navigate this section, I want to first talk about parasocial relationships. The term parasocial is often used on the internet strictly as a pejorative, a way of referring to people who are obsessed with their favorite influencer to the point of irrational behavior or delusion. However, if you're following the book definition of a parasocial relationship, it's just a one-sided, unreciprocated emotional bond. Following that, there's nothing inherently wrong with a parasocial connection to an artist or creator. In fact, I'd argue the existence of them is an important factor in the appreciation of human art and creation. As some of you guessed from my last video, I am a big fan of the YouTuber Drew Gooden. I've been watching him for almost 8 years now, and over time I have developed a positive perception of his public personality and character through his work. I believe that to be normal. Consumers of your art will develop an image of you through your art and an idea of what your personality is through what you present to them. Because of this emotional connection to him, I'd watch basically anything he puts out. He could upload a video of him eating only rocks for a month and I'd tune in. Of course, that's a terrible example. We would all watch that. It sounds insane. Anyways, it's not like I'm crazy or I think the guy's my friend, but my appreciation of his personality, however narrow my understanding of him might be, allows me to enjoy his content more. Why do I have an alarm? Dude, why do I have an alarm? It's like, what time is it? It's like 8 in the fucking evening. Live streaming, because of the real-time interaction and sheer quantity of content, is the form of creation with the highest tendency to develop these parasocial connections very quickly. XQC and Asmongold have their audience because of the way people enjoy their character. People have fallen in love, for better or for worse, with their personalities. I am an example of this as well. I actually used to love watching XQC, especially during the pandemic. Back then, he would play Minecraft and Among Us and be this degenerate gamer boy that I could really relate to. I genuinely enjoyed his personality a lot. He was inspiring to me. The reason I stopped watching and engaging with his content was the hard pivot he made to accepting gambling sponsorships and constantly gambling on stream. I have issues with online gambling. If you've been on the internet for a while, you've probably heard of the scandal from like 2016, where there were these scammy CSGO gambling websites secretly owned by gaming YouTubers that were being marketed towards children, and people were like, hey, you shouldn't make those sites, some fucking dumbass kid is gonna get addicted to gambling. That was me. I was fucking dumbass kid. I had respect for XQC because he had previously mocked someone else for gambling sponsorships. So when he started chilling gambling, it wasn't just that I knew I probably shouldn't watch his gambling content, but it also negatively affected my perception of his character. Because of that, I pretty much just stopped watching all of his content after that point. My enjoyment of his content was scaled linearly to my enjoyment of his personality and human nature. I think that's the case for pretty much every streamer's fan base. That's why, as much as this statement is a great tactic for a Twitter gotcha moment, luckily they're not replaceable for the same reason any human-made art or content isn't. It's about the person making the content. I mean, just look at Asmongold. Anyone could react to the YouTube video about woke video games he's watching, but his fans come to see him in particular and watch his eyebrows jolt up and down like a broken seismograph. Anyways, yeah. I don't care about an AI streamer. I don't care about an AI video, and I definitely don't care about an AI's art. Alright, let's break down and conclude this video, starting with the sort of obvious statement that, yeah, things are kind of weird right now. AI creations are spreading around and infecting every corner, nook, and cranny of the internet, and we have to develop solutions in order to filter them out. Just because that might take a while, though, doesn't mean it's over for humans. We just need a good system in place to identify human-created content, and I genuinely believe that will happen. If you have watched the entire video up to this point and you still don't agree with my premise, think about this. The very fact that you watched my shitty video of me yapping is proof that humans creating content and expressing themselves innately has value. I also want to state very plainly that this is not supposed to be a hit piece attacking the people in this video. I think they're wrong, but I don't hate them. I get most things wrong all the time. But I just don't think I'm wrong about this one. I think what happened is that when we started seeing AI art, we got so focused on how convincingly it could imitate human art, and a lot of people forgot that art is supposed to be human in the first place. At the very least, I hope that 1, my arguments made any sense because I'm on a lot of Dayquil right now, and 2, that artists watching this who are constantly exposed to this barrage of like anti-human art, doomer takes online can watch this video and have like a cathartic and enjoyable experience. Please don't stop. Okay, keep making art, even if it's just for me. I love looking at it. If you are an artist or trying to be, don't give up on your dreams. I really don't think human created art will be going anywhere. I actually believe quite the opposite. People in general right now feel more disconnected than at any other time in human history, and so the demand for human connection and expression will, in my opinion, only grow, and art is a huge part of that. Anyways, yeah, I have to switch gears now, because I know a lot of you are wondering if I'm going to address the controversy, and I'm going to do that now. I saw the comments last video, and I saw that one of you hopes that my channel blows up. I don't think I have to explain why that's hurtful. Do you know how hard
The Dark Ages has officially been released, and players eager to see the prequel adventure to the Slayer can now jump in and play to their heart's content. Finally, am I right? While I've been playing the early access version myself, I'm currently about halfway through the campaign, and my opinion on this game is, well, I'll get into that once I also talk about these other stories like this boycott. And beyond that, there's quite a few other stories to go over when it comes to Dark Ages, from it being bashed by news articles, and later on, I also want to talk about how this game feels like how I wish more games did these days, a complete rejection of modern day nonsense. But first, in case you don't know, there is a boycott somewhat going on specifically with the physical version of Dark Ages, because id Software has confirmed that the game's actual physical disc is nothing and is simply used as an authenticator for the actual game. So in actuality, the physical version of Dark Ages has roughly, as seen here from Eurogamer, the physical disc of Dark Ages has only 85 megabytes of data on the disc itself. This has of course angered large swaths of Doom players because it meant that id and Microsoft both were clearly doing away with the expectations of what those players wanted. The actual game itself, mind you, is around 85 gigabytes of data in total, but effectively what this means is that the disc is more like a key, if you will, that you put inside your console to then unlock the digital version of the game to play on on your preferred platform. The game also requires an always online connection in order to play it, which if you ask me is quite ridiculous considering that Dark Ages has zero multiplayer attached to it. Instead, the game is just a single player campaign comprising of 22 main missions. This whole we need to add always online to everything, it is getting ridiculous, but it's not going over well like I said in the beginning. Here's an article from PureXbox.com titled "Huge Number of People Canceling Doom Pre-Orders Over Botched Physical Release." You may be wondering, why would id Software and Microsoft do this? Well, it's for a few reasons. One is that if your game has an always online connection, it means that your copy of the game has to be constantly checked to ensure that it's legit to play before you actually play it. This means piracy on, say, PlayStation or Xbox can't really exist for this game. Because of the authenticator required, and of course if you tried to play a pirated version somehow, Microsoft will then ping that and then your copy or even your console will likely be bricked. The other major reason for why Microsoft, id Software, or really any studio does this now is because, let's just say it, companies just want to do away with physical games almost entirely anyway. Many brick and mortar stores are struggling because the majority of games are bought digitally already. As you can see here from GameIndustry.biz in their article, they say that in Europe alone in 2023, about 72.4 million copies of games were sold physically, which led to a 42% market share of revenue being made on physical games alone. That does sound great. However, in 2024, that number dropped off a cliff, with roughly 75% of all games revenue coming from digital-only games. So Europe's market share of physical revenue went from 42% in 2023 to 25% in just under one single year. Then if you go ask Google, they claim that the number is far worse than that overall in the world at large. Gaming in 2024 made roughly $184 billion, and about 95.39% of revenue came from digital sales, with only about $8.5 billion of that $184 billion I said before coming from actual physical game sales alone. So maybe physical sales aren't totally dead, sure, but if you compare it, it's obvious that the vast majority of players are instead buying and playing their games digitally over physically anyways these days. At this point, the only people who seem to be buying physical are people that either want to buy a premium or, collector's edition of a game. Otherwise, for most, there's really no point since digital is just far more convenient. Like, when was the last time you actually attended a midnight release at GameStop or something? For me, it was 10 years ago when Fallout 4 released. And since then, I've either had games mailed to me via Amazon or wherever else, or in the case of Doom the Dark Ages, I just got the game digitally so that I can play it at my own convenience. But despite all of this, the physical boycott of the game is still apparent and needs to be addressed. Does It Play, which is a Twitter account that devotes their corner of the internet to how to play games, how big they are, and more, said this about Dark Ages: "The amount of people canceling their pre-orders or outright skipping Doom the Dark Ages because of the botched physical release is huge. We always get these comments in our bubble, but this time it is disproportionate. One can only hope that the Gears of War people are watching closely." And as you can see, the user below said that they canceled their collector's edition because the actual disc that came with it would be nothing more than a glorified key to open the game digitally for them. And then another user would reply saying, "I had the $99 physical version pre-ordered and canceled because there's no point. I'll just buy a digital version sometime when it goes on super sale if I end up still wanting to play it then." Another user would also reply with, "Easiest canceled pre-order of my life, their loss." Do I think this will affect Dark Ages sales a lot? Not likely in my opinion. Xbox wise, most players over there, they were never going to buy the game anyway since it is coming to Game Pass day one regardless. And it's why many games tend to cancel their Xbox versions for sale, because generally speaking, the audience over there, I hate to say it, but they've been so conditioned to not buy their games outright that to release your game on Xbox, unless you're some big mega potential hit, is pretty much pointless since most players will just wait till it hits Game Pass either way. However, even though Microsoft owns Doom and id Software, you would think not being able to make a big profit on their platform would be a bad thing for them, and in actuality, it's the opposite. You see, when it comes to who the biggest publisher is right now on PlayStation specifically, the number one ruler right now is actually Microsoft, as seen here again from GameIndustry.biz. Microsoft, which owns Doom, is currently the biggest publisher on PlayStation. Their games like Forza Horizon 5, which just came out for example, have sold over 1 million units on PlayStation PlayStation 5 in just under 2 weeks at sale, which, let's be real, that's great for a game that isn't exactly new and probably didn't cost Microsoft that much to port over anyways. It's just free money basically for them, and we know that Gears of War Reloaded, which is a remaster or remake, depending on how you frame it, of the first Gears of War game, is also coming to PlayStation this August with full crossplay multiplayer, 4K textures, all the FPS you want, and all that content included. And I have no doubt that Gears Reloaded will be a big seller on PlayStation since it's a mega staple franchise for Microsoft releasing on the rival hardware finally. So whether these players boycott Doom or not, I frankly don't think that Microsoft is going to care either way. Because for them, while sure their game business matters to them, the actual profit that they make from it still pales in comparison to other parts of Microsoft as a whole. After all, they're a trillion-dollar company for a reason, and now with Microsoft no longer really caring about console exclusivity, and instead just releasing their games as far as they possibly can, they're likely going to be the one publishing giant in video games going forward that just ends up making the most money, likely out of any of the other companies, because Doom's previous games already exist on PlayStation, Switch, and PC, and you can bet that Dark Ages will to some capacity arrive on Switch 2 eventually as well, and the game will still sell regardless whether the physical version is basically just a key in a console at this point. And like I said, Microsoft really doesn't care either way. They have so many other franchises and backlog games that they could still release and make off like bandits in the future with. I fully expect Gears of War 2, 3, the other ones as well. They're all gonna come to PlayStation eventually. Same goes with those Fable games, because those will also sell like hotcakes. Not to mention, of course, the crown jewel in their hat, which is Halo as well. And when that Master Chief Collection comes to PlayStation, that's it, man. That will sell like hotcakes when that drops. And the day that I'm sitting there playing Halo on my PlayStation 5, that is going to be a pinch me moment for the ages. And Microsoft still has even more games that they haven't ported over yet still, so they'll definitely be doing that over time for sure. As for Doom, I think the game will sell, although like I said, the game isn't exactly without its problems. Despite that whole boycott, there's other issues too. This comes from the gamer. That's a blasphemy. Doom fans are upset that the Dark Ages has gotten rid of an iconic series staple. Players have taken issue that Dark Ages has decided to be nicer, if you will, with their difficulty settings. For one, you can now modify pretty much everything in Dark Ages. You could, in theory, play on the hardest mode, but then set the modifier so that you are pretty much unkillable, which, if I'm being honest, a mode where the absolute amount of demons exist fighting the Doomslayer, but then he's also practically invincible, basically is technically biblically accurate to his character. If we're being honest, that is what the Doomslayer is, but I digress. But the other issue, besides making Dark Ages arguably a far easier game compared to the much more difficult Eternal, is that id Software also changed the difficulty settings names. Before, the easiest mode was called I'm Too Young to Die, and now it's called Aspiring Slayer. While some fans, as seen here in this Reddit post, they think that id Software is pandering to the modern baby audience by doing things like this by stripping Doom of its identity. They compare this change as if Wolfenstein's, for example, were to change its difficulty setting too to appease babies. As seen here with how Wolfenstein usually does their difficulty settings, the easiest mode, called Can I Play Daddy, shows BJ Blazkowicz with a bob on his head and a sucker in his mouth to signify that if you play on the easiest difficulty, that you're a big stupid baby and you deserve to get made fun of. I mean, look at the screen here. Machine Games literally refers to you as a spineless gamer if you choose the easiest setting. That's kind of awesome, actually. But I'm sure someone out there would cry and call this offensive somehow because they too are spineless and a baby themselves. And the further down the line you go, BJ's face just gets more goofy and evil, signifying how much of a good player you are. I mean, personally, removing the I'm Too Young to Die name is kind of stupid, but it isn't game breaking or anything. But I'm of the mind that any change for the modern audience is never really a good one ever in practice based on any game as any example. As one user on Reddit said, with Dark Ages making these sorts of changes, Aspiring Slayer is kind of passive aggressive if you think about it. Might actually be less inclusive than Too Young to Die, since that's at least a little cheeky, but Aspiring Slayer straight up says you're not good enough. I feel as though any of these changes are pointless, and for a fan base as old as Doom, it's probably better to not screw with what already works. But unfortunately, that too has been getting heat as well. This is from PC Gamer. Doom the Dark Ages feels like a console game first and PC game second. To sum up what PC Gamer says earlier on, they state that Doom 2016 and Eternal felt bad to play on a controller controller according to them. However, once they played those games on PC, they found the experience to be night and day, claiming those games were made with PC in mind in their opinion. I mean, they're called PC gamers, so yeah, that probably checks out. However, when it comes to Dark Ages, it feels like the opposite according to them now. They say that the shooting feels less punishing and more mistakes are allowed, which I can confirm that is how Doom the Dark Ages feels to play. As someone who's played all three of these new age Doom games, if you will, Dark Ages is by and far the easiest and most forgiving of the three based on my own experiences. I found Dark Ages so far to be nowhere near as difficult as, say, Eternal, which I think is still easily the hardest of this trilogy by far. Maybe that's because of things like the Marauder existing, which has notoriously been an enemy type that many players hated due to how punishing it was to fight. But so far anyways, from what I've played, I haven't ran into a single enemy type that is anywhere near as punishing or deadly as the Marauder was. I actually can't think of a single enemy type thus far that has been anything but just fun to fight, but not exactly challenging either. PC Gamer did have more to say when it came to their problems, as it reads here. I can't unsee how profoundly horizontal the Dark Ages is. This iteration of the Slayer can sprint, but the dashes and double jumps of Eternal are gone, as are spaces that take advantage of that mobility. He's functionally a Call of Duty protagonist and not the kind with a cool jetpack. They continue then by saying, the arenas of the Dark Ages are wide, flat battlefields with fewer death pits and high grounds than the prior games. A dull change if you ask me, but one that makes a lot of sense for the console version. A Doom with less jumping is a Doom